Chapter 564. The disciple bowed and said, "About this, Dalong didn't tell me. But in my opinion, this orchid evening refinement is held once every 5 years and has long become a custom. Dalong may not have any ideas of his own." Deputy Hall Master Su snorted, "Since he doesn't have any ideas of his own, then just wait for the Hall Master's arrangement. Although the list is drawn up by me, doesn't the Hall Master still have to look through it? Our pill-expanding hall people are only there to pick herbs. What can we achieve?" The disciple smiled apologetically. "This list has always been drawn up by the Hall Master, but since 15 years ago, Hall Master Su was entrusted to handle this matter. Moreover, the Hall Master is now old and many of the Hall's affairs have to be entrusted to Hall Master Su. Dalong thinks that this year, you should still be in charge of this matter." Deputy Hall Master Su tilted his head. "Did Wu Zhou Su tell you this?" "No, but what Dalong usually says and what I usually see is more or less like this." "Humph, you are well behaved. But this kind of thing can't be said. Just do your job well and I will naturally take note of it. Thank you for your guidance, Hall Master." The disciple was overjoyed and bowed to express his gratitude. "Well, rest early. Go back early tomorrow morning and let Wu Zhou Su keep an eye on this Ren Xiaoyao. Yes, I will follow Hall Master's orders." Far away, Zhang Xiaohua, who was cultivating the Carefree Heart Sutra with his eyes closed in a small courtyard on Heaven Eye Peak, did not know that his every move had already been noticed by the 2 Hall Masters. It was even to the extent that someone was already thinking about his treasure. Wu Zhou Su was also a man of his word. Early the next morning, he sent Yi Qingliao, Qi Yuntian and Qing Shi to bring over a batch of jade boxes. Zhang Xiaohua did not know if the herbs inside were worth his 150 taels of gold, but he already knew that Wu Zhou Su would not be shortchanged at this point. Thus, he quickly signed on a piece of white paper. After sending them off, he happily looked at the herbs in the courtyard. The more he looked, the more he wanted to see them. At this time, he saw Bai Huan enter the courtyard with a gloomy look on his face. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and asked curiously, "Senior Bai, what are you doing? Are you going to move in too?" "Sigh, that's right." Bai Huan sighed. "Junior brother Ren, I was woken up by senior brother Chiu early in the morning. He said that it was Headmaster Chen's idea. Your place is too remote, and it's not good to leave so many herbs unattended. Also, this courtyard needs to be cleaned. Yes, you're now the rising star of our grass division, and the victory of the bet will all depend on you. You're still young, and you can't be left alone, so, you sent senior brother Bai here?" Zhang Xiaohua asked with a smile. "Exactly." Bai Huan took the bedding into the house and looked up at the bamboo forest outside the yard. She looked very uneasy and whispered, "Is it quiet in this yard at night?" "Quiet, of course it's quiet. There's only the sound of the wind blowing through the bamboo forest. It seems like someone is crying," Zhang Xiaohua said gloomily. "I see. Junior brother Ren, aren't you afraid?" Bai Huan asked with a trembling voice. "Of course I'm afraid. I'm afraid that someone will suddenly knock on the door." At this moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Although it was broad daylight, Bai Huan almost jumped up. She hid behind Zhang Xiaohua and said, "Could it be that there's really a ghost?" Before she finished speaking, a voice came from the door of the courtyard. "Is junior brother Ren of the grass division here?" Zhang Xiaohua said loudly, "This is the place. Please come in." The courtyard door was pushed open, and a strong man with a beard walked in. Bai Huan, who was hiding behind Zhang Xiaohua, poked her head out. Seeing that it was a living person, she forced herself to say, "Are you senior fellow apprentice Liao of the Dan department?" Junior brother Bai is also here." "That's me." Then, he cupped his hands and said, "I came here in a hurry. Please forgive me." Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile, "We're all brothers. Why are you so polite? What's the matter, senior brother Liao? I heard that junior brother Ren can use herbs to exchange for pills. Is that true?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, there is indeed such a thing. It's just that these past few days, the senior brothers have lost to this junior brother. They all used herbs to exchange for pills. This junior brother doesn't have many pills, so even if I want to exchange with senior brother Liao, I can't. Senior brother Liao said with a smile, I went down the mountain to do some business. When I came back, I heard that junior brother Ren was killing people everywhere. Congratulations. It's nothing. It's just luck. Senior brother Liao, please don't laugh. Junior brother Ren, you don't have to be so polite. I heard that even the eldest brother of the pill division lost to you a few bottles of pills. I don't want more. Can I exchange a few bone-solidifying pills? Well. Zhang Xiaohua was a little embarrassed. He didn't have many bone-solidifying pills in his hand, and he just exchanged 3 for Bai Huan. Although he didn't like bone-solidifying pills, he still wanted to keep a few for research. When senior brother Liao saw that Zhang Xiaohua was in a difficult position, he took out 2 jade boxes from his bosom and handed them over. I know I've made things difficult for junior brother Ren, but can you take a look at the age of these 2 medicinal herbs? If it's possible, please give me a few. Seeing that senior brother Liao was so confident, Zhang Xiaohua knew that there were good things in these jade boxes. Sure enough, when he opened the jade boxes, there were 2 40-year-old unknown herbs. Before Zhang Xiaohua could speak, Bai Huan smiled and said, Senior brother Liao is so calculating. Although these 2 herbs are old, they don't have any use. How can junior brother Ren agree? Senior brother Liao frowned and said, I heard that junior brother Ren only cares about the age of the herbs. He doesn't care about the herbs. But, if it's other herbs, I don't have them here. Speaking of this, his eyes lit up and he eagerly said, if I know where to pick herbs that are old enough, I can tell junior brother Ren the location. Will junior brother Ren be willing to part with them? Don't. Junior brother Ren, there are many places in the 18 peaks of the fragrant religion that can produce mature herbs. But those places are not places that ordinary disciples like us can go. Even if you know where they are, you may not be able to pick them. Junior brother Bai doesn't know. If junior brother Ren is fated to go to the place I mentioned, he will definitely be able to go there. Moreover, there are many herbs there. They are very old and most of them are unknown. This is something I accidentally learned many years ago. I can basically guarantee that other than me, there shouldn't be many people who know about it. Oh. Zhang Xiaohua was interested when she heard this. What did he want? Wasn't it just some unknown herbs? They were old enough. Even if he used the Yuhuandan pill to exchange, Zhang Xiaohua would still be happy. So she asked, since senior brother Liao is in such a hurry, then junior brother will not care whether he is fated or not. These 2 herbs and your information can be exchanged for 3-inch bone congealing pills. What do you think? Senior brother Liao was overjoyed and said, this Liao thought that 2 pills would be enough. Junior brother Ren actually agreed to 3 pills. This is really generous. Ah. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. She was already regretting it. She secretly said, he is being generous again. Could it be that I am a sucker in the eyes of the Tianmu Peak disciples? Fine, when I have time, I must ask senior brother Bai about the market price of these pills. I don't want to be taken advantage of and ruin my reputation. However, she still said, senior brother Liao has worked hard for the haul. Junior brother feels that you have returned today and can't help but want to get closer to you. Senior brother Liao, please tell junior brother the news. It's just official business. It can't be considered hard work. How can it be compared to junior brother's hard work? Senior brother Liao said, but did not mention the place. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua walked back into the house and took out a jade bottle. She handed it to senior brother Liao and said, Senior brother, take a look. Is there anything inside? Senior brother Liao opened the bottle and took a look. His face was overjoyed. He walked forward and whispered into Zhang Xiaohua's ear for a long time. Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of excitement. When he finished speaking, she smiled bitterly and said, "This is the place that senior brother Liao was talking about? Do you think I can go and pick it?" Senior brother Liao smiled and said, "This place is not an important place in the hall. As long as junior brother is fated to go there, you will definitely be able to pick it. I am not lying to you about this." Zhang Xiaohua nodded. Senior brother Liao is right. As you said, junior brother has the chance to pick it. Alright, the pills have been exchanged. Senior brother Liao, is there anything else? Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was sending him off, senior brother Liao did not stay any longer. He said a few words of thanks and walked away. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was secretly at a disadvantage, Bai Huan muttered, "I knew that there are no good people in the pill department. I have not seen much of this senior brother Liao, so I did not know that his character was so bad." Junior brother Ren, where is the place that he mentioned? Zhang Xiaohua looked at Bai Huan with interest. She waved her hand and said, "Senior brother Liao is right. It depends on my fate. He pointed this out early on, but unfortunately I did not understand." Then, she looked at the 2 herbs in her hand and said, "With these 2 herbs, it is not too bad to give him 3 pills." Herbs? Bai Huan snorted and said, "They are worthless things." While they were talking, the door of the small courtyard was pushed open again. It was Chen Fengxiao and Qiu Wei-cheng who came in. Zhang Xiaohua and Bai Huan went forward and bowed. Chen Fengxiao looked at Bai Huan and said to Zhang Xiaohua with a smile, "I saw that you have a lot of herbs here and the courtyard is big. No one is cleaning, so I asked Bai Huan to come and help you. Although there are many disciples in Tianmu Peak, Bai Huan is the first one you know. I hope you are satisfied with my arrangement." "Humph," Zhang Xiaohua sneered in her heart. "You are just worried about me. Do you think I would not know that you have more eyes and ears watching me? It would be strange if you didn't pay any attention to me." Zhang Xiaohua cupped her hands. "Thank you for your concern, Headmaster Chen. I was just thinking about how to move this pile of herbs into the house. With senior brother Bai here, I can do other things. I will have to trouble senior brother Bai to move these herbs into the house." "Move into the house? By myself?" Bai Huan was stunned. Then, she looked at the few jade boxes that were as big as a small mountain. She smiled bitterly. How unlucky was she? Wasn't it just a few days ago when she was on duty and was the first one to see Ren Xiaoyao? Why? Chapter 565. What? Little brother still wants to do his own things. Chen Fengxiao was obviously stunned and asked. He did not expect Zhang Xiaohua to say such a thing. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Leader Chen, have you forgotten? I told you a few days ago that I want to follow the rules of the grass division and find a few medicine fields at the peak of Tianmu Peak to take care of." Chen Fengxiao smiled bitterly and said, "Little brother, you really know how to joke. Although there are many medicine fields at Tianmu Peak, there are even more disciples in the grass division. Little brother, you have good skills and can't waste them on the medicine fields. It's better to use them properly." Zhang Xiaohua said seriously, "Leader Chen, I'm not joking. If not, I wouldn't have said so much to you a few days ago. I'm a medicine boy sent by Rejuvenation Valley. If I don't take care of the medicine fields properly, wouldn't the reputation of Rejuvenation Valley be tarnished?" This. Chen Fengxiao did not know how to answer. He could only criticize in his heart, "I've never seen anyone like you. Everyone else hides far away from the medicine fields, but you just have to go to the front of the medicine fields. A few days ago, I thought you were just being perfunctory. Who would have thought that you would really do it?" Seeing Chen Fengxiao in a difficult position, Qiu Wei-cheng said softly, "Leader Chen, aren't there a few medicine fields at the east of Tianmu Peak that can't germinate? Why don't you let junior brother Ren take care of it? Anyway, there's nothing to do and it's very relaxing. If leader needs anything, you can also let junior brother Ren come over in time." That's true. Although those fields can't germinate, they still need a disciple to take care of it. Although it's an easy job, the original disciples have already slacked off and complained that it's too far away. Junior brother Ren's qigong is not bad. It's a good choice. Chen Fengshao nodded slightly. Is there a place to stay beside the medicine fields? Zhang Xiaohua asked again. Yes, there's a small house. Chen Fengshao said and then asked in surprise, Junior brother Ren can't really be living on the peak, right? That's exactly what I was thinking, Zhang Xiaohua said resolutely. But... Chen Feng smiled and said 2 words, but he didn't continue persuading her. Zhang Xiaohua was far away from the rest of the disciples, so he was at ease. Hence, he looked at Junior brother Ren and said, then Junior brother Bai will have to suffer and follow Junior brother Ren to the summit of Tianmu Peak? There's only Junior brother Ren there, so we're also worried. Don't you think so, Junior brother Bai? Of course, that's how it should be. Junior brother Ren has been working hard in the herbal field, so I'm just going to give him some food and water. Junior brother Bai, you don't have to worry about such trivial matters. I'll arrange for someone to deliver food to you. You just have to look after the medicinal field and do your job well. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, that's good. If senior brother Bai delivers food every day, I can't afford it. Oh, right, these medicinal herbs. Chen Fengshao waved his hand and said, little brother, don't worry. There aren't many people here, and the medicinal herbs aren't valuable. I'll inform the disciples of the grass department and Wu Dalong to inform the disciples of the pill department not to come to this small courtyard. Good. Zhang Xiaohua said 3 good words in a row and said, now that everything here is settled, let's hurry up and go up the mountain. My job is to plant the medicine fields, and my hands are itching to do some work after not doing any work for a few days. Chen Fengshao smiled bitterly and said, little brother, you don't have to be so impatient. I came this time to see if the pills that the pill department lost to you have been delivered. I didn't plan to leave you at the peak. Zhang Xiaohua pointed to the jade box next to him and said, Wu Dalong sent someone to deliver it early in the morning. I didn't count it carefully, so it shouldn't be too bad. Well, since it's been delivered, I can rest assured. Little brother, this gambling fight can be considered to have ended satisfactorily. If you want to earn more, you'll have to wait for the next gambling fight. The next gambling fight? Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. When will that be? Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's eagerness, Chen Fengshao was secretly delighted. He said, there's no specific time interval between the gambling fights. Let's see if there's an opportunity. However, the pill department lost too badly this time, so they'll have to rest for a few days. Little brother, don't be impatient. Stay at Tianmu Peak for now. There'll be plenty of time for you to earn more medicinal pills. Okay. Zhang Xiaohua clapped his hands again. Then I'll have to trouble Headmaster Chen to help me settle the matter of staying at the peak. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua was urging him again, Chen Fengshao could only say, okay, let's go. Let's go to the peak of Tianmu Peak to see where little brother will settle down in the future. There was only one way to the top of the mountain. It was the small path that Zhou Shuming and Zhang Xiaohua had passed through when they competed in lightness skill. Halfway through, the path was divided into 2, leading to the east and west peaks respectively. Bai Huan led the way in front to the east. Qiu Weiqing explained, Tianmu Peak is within the sphere of influence of the pill department. The pill department and the grass department have their own areas of operation. The west side of the peak belongs to the pill department. That's where they refine pills. Under normal circumstances, people from the grass department are not allowed to go there. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, why are they refining pills at such a high place? Qiu Weiqing said, most of the areas of Tianmu Peak, such as the east, south, and north, are used to grow herbs. Only the west side has many pill rooms from the bottom to the peak. The pill rooms at the top are used by a few old consecrators. Zhang Xiaohua asked again, when I was in Rejuvenation Valley, I saw disciples refining pills. They used earth fire. Could it be that there's earth fire on Tianmu Peak too? Chen Fengxiao shook his head and said, according to Wu Dalong's words, earth fire seems to be used. However, he doesn't know how there is earth fire at such a high place. Oh, our cult of fragrance has many strange things. Little brother, you'll get used to it slowly. Many strange things. Zhang Xiaohua was surprised. Little brother, you can walk around freely on Tianmu Peak. However, you must not go near the pill rooms of the consecrators on the west side. That is the rule of our pill department. If little brother is interested in refining pills, you can look for Wu Dalong in the future. Don't act on your own. Chen Fengxiao warned with a deeper meaning. As they spoke, they arrived at the east side of Tianmu Peak. Facing the warm sunshine, they could see that on the wide slope of the east side, there was a neat and tidy herbal field. However, this herbal field was the same as the one in Huanxi Mountain Manor. It was barren, without a single herb in sight. High up on the ridge of the field, in a flat area, there was an exquisite little house. It looked very elegant. Chen Feng smiled and pointed at the little house. That is where the disciples rest during the day. They also go down the mountain at night. In the future, it will be little brother and junior brother Bai's place to stay. Bai Huan's face was gloomy. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the blazing sun and the boundless white clouds below the peak. She smiled and said, this place is like a fairyland. Even if we live here for a lifetime, we won't be bored. Chen Fengxiao gave her a thumbs up, little brother, good ambition, good realm. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and shook her head. She pointed to the medicine field and asked, Headmaster Chen, are these the non-germinating herbs? Are you sure there are seeds in this medicine field? Chen Fengxiao laughed and said, the medicine field on the east side was personally brought by the inner disciples of Lingering Fragrance Peak. I personally planted the seeds in the field, how can I not be sure? Then how can they not germinate? This is the first time I've seen such a strange thing. Zhang Xiaohua deliberately asked. Who knows? Anyway, every few years, the inner disciples will bring a batch of non-germinating seeds and plant them here. Since they won't germinate, where did the seeds come from? Well, if the inner disciples don't say it, we can only guess. We can't take it seriously. Zhang Xiaohua was about to continue asking when she saw several disciples walking lazily on the mountain path. When they saw Chen Fengxiao and the others, they were very surprised. They quickly ran over and saluted, we didn't know Headmaster Chen was coming today. Sorry for not going out to meet you. Seeing the somewhat panicked expressions of the disciples and the weird welcome, Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, what time is it now? You all just arrived. One of the disciples smiled and said, Headmaster Chen is wise. These medicine fields are just weeding and watering. It's no big deal whether it's morning or evening. So we can't help but slack off a little. Moreover, this place is very far from our residence, no need to say more. You all go and tidy up and empty the hut. From now on, you don't need to look after this place. Just hand it over to junior brother Ren and junior brother Bai. If you have anything to do, quickly tell me. Then, he turned to Zhang Xiaohua and said, little brother, familiarize yourself with the environment first. I'll come back in a few days to talk to you in detail. Then, he brought Qiu Wei Qing down the peak. The disciples who were looking after the medicine fields were caught slacking off by Chen Fengxiao. They thought that they would be punished, but after hearing Chen Fengxiao's instructions, their faces were full of joy. Although the medicine fields were easy, they had to go up and down the peak every day. It was very tiring and they had long complained. Now that they were so happy that they didn't have to climb the mountain path anymore, they were very happy. After seeing Chen Fengxiao leave, they pulled Zhang Xiaohua and Bai Huan's sleeves and roughly walked around the medicine fields. They also told them all the things to take note of. Then, they quickly went into the hut, packed up their things, and happily went down Tianmu Peak. Only Zhang Xiaohua was left standing under the sun with a faint smile on her face as she looked at the bare medicine fields. Bai Huan stood in front of the empty hut with a bitter face. No one knew what she was thinking. After a while, Zhang Xiaohua said, Senior brother Bai, if you don't want to stay on the peak, you can go back first. When I have time, I'll talk to Headmaster Chen. Bai Huan immediately waved her hand and said, No, I'm just not used to it. Junior brother Ren, stay here. I'll go and bring your bedding up. However, Zhang Xiaohua said, No need. You can bring your things up first. I'll walk around. When I have time later, I'll take it myself. Alright then. Junior brother Ren, don't go too far. You can't go to the west side. If the consecrators of the pill department see you, they will inevitably punish you. I know. You can go about your business. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and went straight to the peak. Chapter 566. The peak of Tianmu Peak was a huge platform. There were many strange stones placed haphazardly on it. There were also a few huge ancient trees with their flourishing canopies covering most of the platform. Zhang Xiaohua came to the platform and spread out her divine sense. Seeing that there was no one around, she immediately jumped up and stood on top of the canopy. Tianmu Peak was surrounded by a sea of clouds. Only the peak of Tianmu Peak could be seen. It was like a small island in the middle of the sea. Faintly, in the distance, there were a few dark shadows of islands. They must be the peaks of the other peaks. Ga, a few clear cries could be heard. A few white cranes flew through the sea of clouds, stirring up some dust. They circled above the clouds a few times before diving back down and disappearing without a trace. In the east of the sky, a huge sun shone its golden light on the sea of clouds. The mountain wind blew, the sea of clouds rolled, and golden snakes danced wildly. Zhang Xiaohua was a little dazed at the sight. This must be a paradise. After being intoxicated for a while, Zhang Xiaohua sighed and thought to herself, although it is like a paradise, it is still a foreign place. It is not a place for me to stay. Moreover, the beautiful scenery is just a facade. The people's hearts are not what they used to be. I wonder where the paradise is. Then, without hesitation, she released her divine sense and jumped to the west. The west side was where the alchemists of the pill department lived. There were not many herbs planted there. Although the slope was not steep, all kinds of trees were thick and tall. There were also many herbs and weeds on the ground. It looked like they were not taken care of. While walking, she heard footsteps. Zhang Xiaohua looked left and right, then jumped onto a big tree and hid among the thick branches. After a while, two disciples walked past from the left. The disciples of the pill department were dressed in the same way as the disciples of the grass department. Zhang Xiaohua could not tell if they were disciples of the pill department. She heard the person on the left say, "We lost a lot in this bet. In order to get some points, we bet a lot of elixirs. Who would have thought that something that was guaranteed would go wrong in the end? That's right, I'm the same. Sigh, forget it. Luckily, this junior brother from the grass division is a fool. He just came to Tianmu Peak and doesn't know anything. He still thinks that it's the same as outside, that herbs are valuable. Hee, weren't many of the Rejuvenation Valley's disciples like this in the past? They try their best to collect herbs that they've never seen before, but in the end, when they want to trade for pills, no one will trade with them, right? It's just that this hothead made too big of a commotion. He actually won against all the disciples. No matter how much you win, isn't it all just grass? How can it be more practical than medicinal pills? What a pity. This kid's martial arts are not bad. His Qing Gong is even better than the great King Kong. Forget it. You've been tricked. What? Had he been cheated? What do you mean, senior martial brother? You stupid brain, no wonder you keep losing. Think about it, who is the great King Kong? His lightness skill is second to none in our Tianmu Peak. Even if Headmaster Chen's martial arts is strong, he is no match for the great King Kong in terms of lightness skill. How could he lose to a hothead? I understand now. No wonder Senior Marshal Brother Lu said that the great guardian deity's expression didn't look right when he saw the final scene on Heaven Eye Peak. They must have made some secret deal. That's right. You only remembered it now. Then let's go find Elder Lei and ask him to uphold justice. Although he said this, his tone was weak. He didn't have the toughness of finding someone to uphold justice for him. Isn't Elder Lei in the alchemy room in front? Junior Marshal Brother, you can go ahead. It's just some medicinal pills. It's not like we haven't lost before. We can just win it back in the future. There's no need to offend the great King Kong. Junior Marshal Brother, do you understand why I didn't look for Elder Lei? Furthermore, Elder Lei was also present that day. He saw it with his own eyes and admitted that the great King Kong had lost. If you look for him again, won't you be giving Elder Lei a hard time? I understand. In the future, this hothead still has to participate in the competition. We can just get it back from him. Oh, he collected a lot of useless medicinal herbs. How can he give them to the great King Kong? This isn't a problem for us to consider. Anyway, the future is long. Let's wait and see. Yes, that's right. Let's go quickly. Elder Su is waiting anxiously. He might scold us again. If we go early, we'll be scolded. If we go late, we'll also be scolded. Why should we go early? That's true. Why is this small bone congealing pill so difficult to refine? Elder Su has already failed so many times. Look at what you're saying. If it wasn't difficult to refine, how could this small bone congealing pill be worth so much money? The two disciples talked as they walked. They didn't stop. In the end, they had already walked far away. Looking at the direction they were heading, Zhang Xiaohua snorted coldly. People always make guesses. They think that they're right, but they don't know that the simplest reason can be the correct reason. However, this is also good. It's better than letting others know all of a sudden. Elder Su. Small bone congealing pill. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Xiaohua did not go down to the ground. Instead, he slid up the treetops like a wisp of smoke and followed the two from afar. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua's eyes suddenly caught sight of a small gourd on the side of their sleeves. What's this symbol? Is it the symbol of the pill department? Zhang Xiaohua was secretly surprised. After thinking about it carefully, she found that there seemed to be a grass-like symbol on the sleeves of Bai Huan and others. It was just that Zhang Xiaohua had only been here for a short time, so she didn't have too close contact with these disciples of Tianmu Peak. As soon as she came here, they were gambling and paying off debts. How could she notice it? The pill department should be in the shape of a round pill. How can it be a gourd? The two people whispered to each other as they walked. Along the path, they came to a cave. They looked at each other and walked to the entrance of the cave, saying in unison, "Elder Su, we're here." Then, they heard a series of footsteps inside. Sure enough, it was one of the experts they saw in the gambling arena that day. As soon as Elder Su saw them, he scolded, "Didn't you two sleep last night? Why did you come so late? This old man has been waiting for a long time. This pill furnace is also hot and hot. This old man just asked you to be furnace boys for a few days. How can you be so lazy?" The two disciples hurriedly bowed. "Elder Su, please don't be angry. The top of Tianmu Peak is really high. Our lightness skills are limited, so we walked up step by step. There's no guarantee that we won't be delayed. Moreover, this time doesn't seem too late. You still dare to talk back? Quickly go in and help me sort out the medicinal herbs. When this furnace of pills is completed, I'll talk to Wu Dalong." Elder Su looked at the sky from the corner of his eyes. He seemed to know that he was in the wrong and was looking for a way out. The two disciples didn't dare to delay and quickly slipped into the cave. Consecrated Elder Su walked slowly behind him. After the three of them entered the cave, Zhang Xiaohua revealed herself from behind a tree not far away. She looked at the cave and released her divine sense. After estimating the distance, she made a hand seal and burrowed into the ground. This was a very spacious cave. In the middle was a space the size of Rejuvenation Valley's pill room. Beside it was a small cave with a bed. It should be Elder Su's resting place. Zhang Xiaohua appeared in this small cave. She saw that this pill room was actually similar to Rejuvenation Valley Master Nie's pill room. Against the mountain wall, there was a groove with a huge pill furnace on it. At this moment, there was a greenish-yellow flame burning under the pill furnace. It seemed to be earth fire. Zhang Xiaohua carefully observed the pill furnace. Sure enough, there were palm-like things on both sides of the pill furnace. It was similar to Rejuvenation Valley's pill furnace. At this moment, Elder Su was already standing in front of the pill furnace. The two disciples squatted beside him and picked up some medicinal herbs. These medicinal herbs looked very fresh and should have been picked recently. Elder Su placed one hand on one side of the pill furnace and took the medicinal herbs with the other. He looked at them carefully and threw them into the pill furnace. Not long after, some medicinal fragrance wafted out from the pill furnace. After a while, more medicinal herbs were thrown into the furnace. Seeing Elder Su's ease, Zhang Xiaohua secretly nodded. This is the authentic martial way of refining pills. It's much better than my unorthodox way of fumbling around. However, Zhang Xiaohua didn't care about the martial way of refining pills, so she didn't have any intention of secretly learning. She looked around the pill room, made a hand seal, and escaped again. She floated up the tree and then floated down the mountain peak. The pill room on Tianmu Peak was also a typical martial way of refining pills. The pill furnace could also be controlled by internal energy. However, she didn't know if the method was the same as the enchanting finger. The pill room on Tianmu Peak also used earth fire. She didn't know how the earth fire was brought up from such a high peak. Of course, the incense cult was a great immortal sect with thousands of years of heritage. Their methods must be miraculous. This was just one of the simplest methods. After walking down for a while, her divine sense found that a cave appeared on the left side. There were flames lingering inside, so she turned around and went straight in. However, before she reached it, she heard a loud bang from the cave. Then, an old man with a face blackened by the explosion and straight gray hair escaped from the cave with unusual speed. Wasn't he Elder Feng, the one who asked Zhang Xiaohua for the Yuhuandan pill that day? Hearing the explosion, Zhang Xiaohua was shocked. Her divine sense couldn't reach far and couldn't see the situation around her. However, how could such a commotion not attract attention? She immediately made a hand seal and went to the side of Elder Feng, who was hurriedly tidying up his clothes and removing the dust from his hair. She quietly hid behind a mountain rock. As expected, before old Consecrator Feng could finish packing up, old Consecrator Su, old Consecrator Lei, and the others rushed over. When they saw old Consecrator Feng in such a sorry state, they smiled and said, "Brother Feng, you failed again?" "Sigh yes, who knows what happened? I followed the instructions recorded in the book and the steps seem to be correct. Why can't I refine the Yuhuandan pill? Even the small revitalizing pill keeps making mistakes." "What? Refining the pill until it exploded and you actually made yourself like this? To be able to refine the pill to this extent, Elder Feng can be considered to be proud of yourself." Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but secretly admire Elder Feng. Chapter 567. Don't worry, old Feng. This Yuhuandan pill is the consummate skill of an inner sect alchemist. Back then, when we were in the inner sect, we didn't manage to successfully refine it. Now, it's probably impossible for us to refine it in one go. Let's slowly try. The other pills are also easy to deal with. If the refinement fails, then so be it. If this returning jade pill fails, then it will explode. Look at my beard, it will burn off sooner or later. It's a pity that the last time Wuzhou ruins took out the jade return pill, it was actually snatched away by Chen Fengshao. Otherwise, we could have studied it properly. Sigh, don't place your hopes on it. It's just a failed Yuhuandan pill. Even if it's the real Yuhuandan pill, haven't we seen it before? Why haven't we researched it yet? Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. Isn't it because we can't refine the Yuhuandan pill that we were exiled to this place? Didn't those old farts stay in the inner sect because they knew how to refine the Yuhuandan pill? Once I've researched it, I'll pass it on to all of you. We'll return in glory and let them worship us. Old Consecrator Lei smiled and said, Alright, I'll leave this glorious and difficult task to Brother Feng. You must take care of your body. Don't lose your beard before your ambition is realized. Ha ha ha. Old Consecrator Su also laughed. At this moment, the dozen or so pill department disciples at the foot of the mountain also heard the commotion and came over. Old Consecrator Lei and the others waved their hands and gave a simple explanation of the situation before letting them leave. After those disciples walked far away, Zhang Xiaohua didn't delay any longer. She burrowed into the ground and followed them from afar. The further down the mountain they went, the more disciples they encountered. There were also more caves like the alchemy rooms from before. The dozen or so disciples walked towards different alchemy rooms. Zhang Xiaohua didn't deliberately follow them. She only quietly hid behind a large rock and used her divine sense to observe the surrounding movements. The terrain in this area was flat. There were 7 or 8 caves in the surroundings. Disciples entered and exited each cave from time to time. Some were holding medicinal herbs in their hands, some were holding jade bottles in their hands, and very few were even holding jade boxes in their hands. However, seeing that these caves were somewhat foggy, Zhang Xiaohua lost interest in going in to investigate. At this time, he wasn't studying Rejuvenation Valley's alchemy techniques. There was no reason for him to be interested in this alchemy technique that was even inferior to orthodox martial arts alchemy. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Xiaohua burrowed into the ground and headed towards the top of the mountain. When she turned to the north side of the mountain, there was only a stretch of cliffs. There wasn't any flat area, and of course, there was no place for people to stay. Zhang Xiaohua only poked her head out to take a look before returning to the east side. At this time, there was still no one in the cottage. Bai Huan shouldn't have returned yet. Zhang Xiaohua headed towards the south again. As he walked, he suddenly saw a steep area in the southeast corner. It seemed to be a cave. When he approached it, it was indeed so. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. The reason why he went from west to north and then from north to east was because he wanted to find a place to stay. Although there was a cottage next to the medicinal field, it was okay if only Zhang Xiaohua lived there. However, with Bai Huan, who was similar to monitoring Zhang Xiaohua, it was no longer an ideal place to stay. And this cave in the southeast corner was exactly the place in his heart. The entrance of the cave wasn't big and could only allow one person to enter. The inside of the cave was also quite big and very dry. At this time, the sun was shining in from afar and it was very bright. Zhang Xiaohua casually looked around inside and felt satisfied. Only then did he come out. In fact, he had lived in this cave for a long time when he was on a deserted island overseas in his early years. As long as he could sit cross-legged, he didn't have any other requirements. After coming out of the cave, Zhang Xiaohua still looked towards the south side of the mountain. The south side of the mountain seemed to be more gentle. There weren't many medicinal fields near the top of the mountain. Even if there were, they were very small and couldn't be planted with many herbs. The further down he went, the more herbs were planted. Every medicinal field was very big and precious herbs were planted in some corners. Many disciples of the grass division with a grass embroidered on their sleeves were busy. The scene was similar to the mountainside of the east side of the mountain. Seeing this scene, Zhang Xiaohua shook his head. This wasn't a place he wanted to come often. However, he remembered that Headmaster Chen hadn't given him any clothes yet. So he turned and went back to the top of the mountain. When he came to the front of the cave, he looked down at the medicinal fields at the foot of the mountain. Zhang Xiaohua was a little puzzled. He didn't know what the elders of the fragrance division had arranged. Only the west side of Tianmu Peak had many pill rooms for refining pills. The other three sides had very few caves. Just as he was thinking, he heard someone shout from afar, "Junior brother Ren, junior brother Ren. Where are you?" Wasn't that Bai Huan's shout? Zhang Xiaohua made a sound of acknowledgement and turned around the corner, walking towards the medicinal fields in the east. Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's reply, Bai Huan quickly walked over. When she saw Zhang Xiaohua's figure, she sighed in relief and asked, "Where did junior brother Ren go?" "The south side of the mountain is also our grass division's territory." "Did you go there?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and nodded. "Yes, when I was in Rejuvenation Valley, I didn't see so many medicinal fields. Now that I see it, I'm a little surprised." "Ha, junior brother Ren is new here. He will know in the future that our Tianmu Peak doesn't have many medicinal fields. The north side is steep and there used to be some herbs, but they have all been picked. It's not easy to grow them now. The west side is still the pill division's territory and there aren't many varieties. Only the east and south sides can be grown. The other peaks, such as Three Reeds Peak, Baiyu Peak and Shushin Peak, are full of medicinal plants." "That's spectacular." "Oh, by the way, Shushin Peak has been taken away by the Misty Hall. The head of the Misty Hall has given the mountain to us. Although the mountain has only been in our possession for a few years, the mountain has already been planned. Together with the medicinal plants planted on the mountain, it can be compared to Shushin Peak." Then she smacked her lips a few times and said, "Tsk, Shushin Peak is a good mountain. It used to be the best mountain in our pill division. If not for the head of the Misty Hall's strict order, the Hall Master would not be willing to give it away." "Misty Hall?" Zhang Xiaohua was ecstatic. He had been in the fragrance division for a few days and had been looking for a chance to ask about the Misty School. But he didn't have the chance and didn't dare to lead the topic to the Misty School. Now that Bai Huan mentioned it, he couldn't help but smile and said, "Misty Hall. What does it do? Does it dig jade like Shiyu Hall?" "Ha, you don't know about this, do you?" Bai Huan said proudly, "You're also from the Rejuvenation Valley. Have you heard of the Misty School?" "Misty School?" Zhang Xiaohua had a strange expression and frowned. "I think I've heard of it, but I also don't think I've heard of it. You know, I've always been in the Rejuvenation Valley and don't go out much." Bai Huan was a little disappointed and said with disappointment, "Junior brother Ren, your martial arts are so strong, but why don't you know anything about the pugilistic world? Don't you know the names of the pugilistic world's major sects like the Dalan Temple, Fragrance Division, Righteous Alliance, Misty School, Fallen Star Alliance, and so on?" "Oh, speaking of this, of course I know. Jade Foundation Alliance, Whale Gang. I know about them too." "You're right, but do you know who is the most powerful other than the Dalan Temple, Righteous Alliance, and Fragrance Division?" "I don't know." "Isn't it our Jade Foundation Alliance?" "Guess again." It was as if Zhang Xiaohua was a 5 or 6-year-old child who needed his guidance. Zhang Xiaohua was helpless and said with his mouth agape, "Could it be the Misty School that senior brother Bai mentioned?" "Bingo!" Bai Huan clapped and laughed. "That's right, this Misty School is the most powerful sect in the pugilistic world other than the Dalan Temple, Righteous Alliance, and us." "But do you know what happened to this Misty School?" Zhang Xiaohua frowned. How would I know?" Then, he pretended to be enlightened and said, "Could it be, this Misty School has something to do with our ethereal hall?" Bai Huan clapped again and said with a smile, "That's right. Our ethereal hall is the Misty School that was destroyed by us 4 years ago. Their disciples were brought back by our leader and they established our ethereal hall. The Misty School was destroyed by our fragrance division." Zhang Xiaohua was a little surprised. Why was this different from what Chu Yunfei, the Misty School's disciple, said? And it was also different from the rumors in the pugilistic world. Bai Huan said proudly, of course. We, the cult of fragrance, destroyed the Misty sect with just a little finger and brought back the remaining disciples. But, our fragrance division rarely gets involved in the pugilistic world. Why did this Misty school provoke us? Why did we destroy them all at once? Also, Senior Brother Bai, I want to ask, since Shushin Peak is the best peak in the pugilistic world, why was it forcefully taken away and given to the ethereal hall? Zhang Xiaohua laughed in her heart, but asked with a puzzled expression. This. Maybe the Misty sect has been doing whatever they want in the Jianghu and offended the disciples of our fragrant cult outside. Although our fragrant cult can't enter and leave the Jianghu as we please, there are still many disciples outside the Jianghu. I guess it's them who have a grudge with the Misty sect. Hee, they dare to offend our fragrant cult. Are they tired of living? If it weren't for this damn passage, the whole pugilistic world would have been ours long ago. Ha, if a small and insignificant disciple in the pugilistic world thinks like this, I don't know what the outer and inner disciples are thinking. They are really frogs in a well. Oh, it's really hard to say. The fragrance division has passed down the cultivation method of immortality for thousands of years. If there is someone like me, wouldn't it be? But, the chi of heaven and earth in the fragrance division is thin, so it's unlikely. Zhang Xiaohua thought for a while and felt a little uneasy. She suddenly asked, oh right, Senior Brother Bai, you haven't answered my question. Shushin Peak is such a good peak, why was it given to the ethereal hall? Why don't you just let them come to Tianmu Peak? Zhang Xiaohua had been inquiring about her second brother, so naturally she couldn't talk about the ethereal hall. Alas, the pugilistic world is cruel. What she saw now was only the peaceful side. Chapter 568. Well. Bai Huan really couldn't justify himself. He was just a low-level disciple. Everything he knew was hearsay. Now he was using it to fool Zhang Xiaohua and show off his profound knowledge. How could he know such a profound question? He rolled his eyes and said with a smile, pacification, Junior Brother Ren doesn't know about it. Pacification? If you don't understand, please enlighten me. Zhang Xiaohua was eager for him to say more. Of course, she would take advantage of the situation. Bai Huan pinched the beard under his chin with his hand and said confidently, although the Misty School is worthless in our fragrance cult, after all, it is a super sect in Jianghu. Think about it. They were easily destroyed by us and sent here from afar. They are no longer as glorious as they used to be. Do you think they can feel balanced? Oh, I also heard that many people in their sect were seriously injured. Their bones were crushed by the old consecrator, and they were paralyzed on the bed, unable to move at will. And, there were also many first-class masters in Jianghu, but they were also crippled by our cult master's finger. They were so weak that they could not even truss a chicken. How could they not be resentful? Then he looked around and said mysteriously, you don't know that several halls of our fragrance cult are not on good terms with the Misty Hall. The disciples of the Misty Hall are not good at martial arts, but they are united. They often fight with some outer disciples. Moreover, in order to restrict them, the disciples of our pill repository hall are forbidden to contact the disciples of the Misty Hall for fear that some elixirs will flow into the Misty Hall. Then he said, oh, I digress. Let's continue to talk about pacification. Our hierarch is a man of great talent and bold vision. He has long considered the resentment of the disciples of the Misty Hall. Therefore, he used both kindness and coercion to allocate the best Shushin Peak to them and let them live a good life there. It is said that there are many inner disciples around the Shushin Peak to guard and prevent people from entering or leaving the Shushin Peak at will. Hey, since you can't enter Shushin Peak at will, how can you still have a conflict with the people of Misty Hall? Sigh, you don't understand. Junior Brother Ren, although Shushin Peak is rich in resources and has the best medicinal herbs, it's impossible for them to seclude themselves. There are many things that they have to communicate with other halls. For example, if they don't give us their medicinal herbs, can they refine their own pills? Oh, I heard that the Misty Hall also has some alchemists, but compared with our Pill Tower Hall, they are far inferior. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, I understand now. The disciples of the sect must have seen that the Misty Hall is a newcomer and deliberately wanted to bully them. It's just like the first night I came to Tianmu Peak. This. Bai Huan was a little embarrassed. On that day, he had asked Zhang Xiaohua openly and secretly for filial piety. Now that he saw that Zhang Xiaohua could even kill the 10 great King Kongs, how could he dare to mention what happened that day? Now that Zhang Xiaohua mentioned it, although she didn't mention his attitude towards Zhang Xiaohua, he was still extremely embarrassed. Ahem, Bai Huan coughed and said, how can the Misty Hall be compared with Junior Brother Ren? Junior Brother Ren is a direct disciple of our fragrance cult. He came in openly from Rejuvenation Valley, but they all changed their minds halfway. No one can guarantee that they will betray the fragrance cult tomorrow. Who will give them face? Moreover, Junior Brother Ren is a genius. Although he is young, his martial arts are superb. Even the great King Kongs have to give way to him. The Misty Hall is just a disabled hall. Who will care about their life and death? Oh! Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but frown, and a trace of sternness flashed through her eyes. Since even a disciple like Bai Huan said so, the situation of the Misty School in the fragrance cult could be seen from this. By the way, Senior Brother Bai, I have only been to the fragrance cult for a short time. First, I came to Baiyue Peak, and then came to our Tianmu Peak. May I know where Shixin Peak is? Bai Huan didn't suspect anything and pointed to a small black spot under the sun in the east, saying, look, isn't it over there? Zhang Xiaohua looked over and couldn't see clearly. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, why is it so far? I remember that it only takes half a day to go from Baiyue Peak to Tianmu Peak. You don't know this. Bai Huan once again put on the appearance of a good teacher, pointing to the dozens of clear or unclear black spots in the sea of clouds and said, the 19 peaks of our fragrant religion, I heard that there is some kind of formation, with the Lingxiang Peak as the center, the other 18 peaks are scattered around it in picturesque disorder. But the surroundings are not circular, like the Big Dipper. And our Tianmu Peak and Baiyue Peak are the furthest away from the Shixin Peak, almost 3 or 4 days of travel. So far. Zhang Xiaohua was a little disappointed. This Bai Huan must have been sent by Chen Fengshao to spy on her. If it was like Baiyue Peak, with half a day of travel, she could go back and forth in a day. Perhaps she could find a reason to go. But Shixin Peak actually took 3 or 4 days. Wouldn't it take her 7 or 8 days to go back and forth? It was hard to give any reason. Alas, I'd better stay at Tianmu Peak for now. I'll wait until I'm familiar with Chen Fengshao and he is no longer wary of me. Zhang Xiaohua could only comfort herself like this. She directly ignored the inner disciples guarding Shixin Peak. When Zhang Xiaohua first entered the fragrant religion, he was extremely worried about his second brother's safety. He wanted to find the Misty Hall as soon as possible so that he could be at ease when he saw his second brother with his own eyes. However, after what he had seen and heard in the fragrant religion for the past few days, he found that the martial arts of the fragrant religion disciples were mediocre and they did not have much contact with the outside world. The disciples of the Pill Repository Hall were all very ordinary and they were far inferior to the disciples of the Misty sect that he had met before. Even Ye Xiao'er might not be able to compare with them. Therefore, he was not worried about his second brother's safety. If his second brother could reach the fragrant religion safely, then he would be staying at the Shixin Peak. However, if something were to happen to him, then even if he went to the Shixin Peak now, he might not be able to see his second brother alive. At this time, she heard Bai Huan say mysteriously, Junior Brother Ren, in fact, there is a story about these 19 mountains. I don't know if you have heard of it. Story? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. He smiled and said, of course I haven't heard of it. When I entered the fragrance cult, it was Baiyue Peak and Tianmu Peak. The first disciple I really met was Senior Brother Bai. No one has confided in me as much as Senior Brother Bai. How could I know? Bai Huan was very comfortable with this so-called flattery. She smiled and said, there are many stories in our fragrance cult. For example, these 19 mountains. I heard that only lingering fragrance peak was on the ground, and the other 18 mountains were suspended in the air. Ah! Zhang Xiaohua opened his mouth wide and looked at the islands in the sea of clouds in disbelief. How is that possible? Then, she looked at Tianmu Peak under her feet and stamped her feet. Tianmu Peak is also suspended in the air? Yes. Baiyu Peak, Shishim Peak, and the others are all suspended in the air. Bai Huan said firmly. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua was a little hesitant. The fragrance cult was a great immortal sect, so it was not strange for them to have shocking stories. Zhang Xiaohua herself was an immortal cultivator, so she should be able to accept it. But to think that these mountains were suspended in the air and formed a complete formation to protect lingering fragrance peak was really beyond Zhang Xiaohua's understanding. There was no such description in the jade slip. However, Zhang Xiaohua's mind immediately lit up. Other formations aside, the rabbit talisman and rooster talisman in her mud pill palace, as well as the golden ball they formed, were not on the same plane. If someone really had great magic power, they might be able to refine these talismans one by one to form a complete formation. Or, if they refined each mountain into a talisman, perhaps they really could form a suspended formation. But how great would their magic power be? Perhaps, only the legendary Foundation establishment cultivators could do it. Sigh, poor Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua had no one to teach him. He had only heard of the Foundation establishment stage. He simply regarded the Foundation establishment stage as the end of his cultivation. Perhaps only when he reached that stage would he realize that there was always someone better than him. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's stunned and incredulous expression, Bai Huan was very satisfied. She smiled and said, however, this is just an old story. You can't take it seriously. Anyway, I still don't believe it. If you want it to be suspended in the air, what if the seniors of the fragrance cult slip and fall from the mountain? Wouldn't they be smashed into a meat patty? Moreover, they just want to drop by. What should we do? We can't use a rope to get to the ground first and then climb a rope to another mountain. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua was sweating profusely. She was not afraid of being uncultured, but she was afraid of talking nonsense. Bai Huan really dared to imagine that if the people of the Way of Immortality didn't have the means to fix the things on the mountain, as long as the mountain was suspended in the air, all the stones and plants on the mountain would tumble down. Falling to death, she really dared to imagine. If the Way of Immortality hadn't been destroyed, the people of the Way of Immortality must have some kind of floating technique. How could they fall down so easily? Bai Huan proudly expressed her opinion and stunned Zhang Xiaohua. She said, by the way, junior brother Ren, why did you come down? Let's go. I've brought up your bedding and other things. Let's clean up the hut first. You don't know, these people are really lazy. Although they don't stay every night, you should still clean up the peels and paper scraps. It's piled up like a mountain inside. If I had known, I would have let them clean up first. Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, Senior brother Bai, can you carry your bedding and mine? Of course I can't, but I can ask the other senior brothers to help me. Then why don't you just ask them to help clean up? Cough, cough. Headmaster Chen isn't here. How would I dare to order them around? They're even using junior brother Ren's name to deliver the bedding. Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. Chapter 569. Of course, cleaning the room was not a difficult task. However, Zhang Xiaohua was unwilling to live there. Why should he do something useless? Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, in that case, I can only clean it myself. Senior brother Bai, it's better for you to clean it yourself. I don't live in that hut anyway. Bai Huan did not hear Zhang Xiaohua's words clearly and said, okay, I know that junior brother Ren's hands are used for gambling. As for cleaning, let's... what? If junior brother Ren doesn't live in the hut, where will you live? Then she asked, is it because you think it's inconvenient for me to live here? Why don't I tell Headmaster Chen that I'll live in the original place? Zhang Xiaohua laughed secretly, I asked you to come here to watch over me. If you leave, how can Headmaster Chen do it? She said, don't, senior brother Bai. I'm just not used to living with others. Look, there's a cave on the cliff. I've already checked it out. It's very suitable and can accommodate one person. I'll live there. Ah. How can that be? Junior brother Ren, aren't you despising me by doing this? Seeing that Bai Huan was about to make a fuss again, Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and said, Senior brother Bai, do you think Headmaster Chen will let you go back if you tell him? I'm afraid he'll let you. As she spoke, she pointed at the cliff in the distance. This? Bai Huan hesitated. Needless to say, as long as Zhang Xiaohua said that she did not want to live with Bai Huan, Chen Fengxiao would not let Bai Huan go down the mountain. She could not escape the fate of living in a cave. Bai Huan was speechless. Although the disciples of Tianmu Peak were not pampered, living in a cave? Thinking about it, it was a little inconceivable. Then Bai Huan looked at Zhang Xiaohua with a strange expression. What was this person trying to do? She did not want to live in a good house but wanted to live in a remote bamboo grove. Thinking of the shadow of the bamboo grove, Bai Huan shuddered. There were good houses on the peak but she did not want to live in a cave. Why was she so unlucky? Why didn't she slack off that day? Why did he have to meet such a person? Zhang Xiaohua's words were very true. Before he came, Qiu Wei Cheng had told him clearly to keep an eye on Zhang Xiaohua. As for why and how, Qiu Wei Cheng did not say anything. He only patted Qiu Wei Cheng's shoulder and said, the Chao clan trusts you. Of course, he had to tell Chen Fengxiao that Zhang Xiaohua was living in a cave, but not now. It would not be too late to tell Chen Fengxiao when he needed to report the situation 2 days later. That was because Zhang Xiaohua was already living in a cave. How could head boss Chen invite him out of the cave? It seems like this Zhang Xiaohua doesn't listen to boss Chen's words. After thinking about it, Bai Huan said politely, even if we have to live in the cave, I will live there. How can I let junior brother Ren live there? Zhang Xiaohua knew that he was being polite. She smiled and said, Senior brother Bai, you don't have to say any more. Head boss Chen is not here. I won't accept your kindness. If you want, you can go ahead. I won't stop you. Bai Huan smiled and said, Junior brother Ren is indeed a straightforward person. I will go and get your bedding now. After saying that, he quickly ran away and went to the hut. He did not mention cleaning the hut anymore. Bai Huan accompanied Zhang Xiaohua to the slightly hidden small cave in the southeast corner. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, Junior brother Ren, I've come to the top of Heaven Eye Peak many times, but I've never seen this cave before. It's just that it's a little close to the cliff. If you sleepwalk at night, won't it be easy to fall and get injured? Looking at the cave entrance that was a few feet away from the cliff, Zhang Xiaohua did not know what to say. Not to mention that she practiced the Carefree Heart Sutra at night and would not come out of the cave. Even if she came out, she would not turn around and walk towards the cliff. This cave is actually very dry. I was worried that junior brother Ren's joints would hurt from sleeping. Bai Huan muttered as he put the bedding in the cave. He looked around and said, this cave is a little similar to the alchemy room of the pill division in the west, but it is much smaller. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and said, Senior brother Bai has been to the alchemy room of the pill division in the west? Didn't you say that you are not allowed to go there? Bai Huan smiled and said, I occasionally get lost and come here. You can't say anything about me, right? Besides, you sent some herbs over and let me take a look inside. It is only right. Zhang Xiaohua wanted to ask if the disciples of the grass division had used the alchemy room of the pill division in the past. However, disciples like Bai Huan might not know. Moreover, Chen Fengxiao must be more anxious than her. Perhaps there would be some news in a few days. However, what kind of elixir should she refine by then? Alas, forget it. Don't think about it. Let's see when the time comes. Coming out of the cave, Bai Huan went to tidy up his hut. Zhang Xiaohua went to the bare herb field, squatted down, and grabbed a handful of soil from the field. The soil was very soft. With Zhang Xiaohua's insight as a disciple of the School of Agriculture, she knew that it was of good quality. If grain was planted, it would certainly grow vigorously. This situation was no different from the herb field in the Huanxi mountain villa. If she guessed correctly, it should be the reason for the lack of qi of heaven and earth. However, according to the qi of heaven and earth gathered when she attracted the thunder, it seemed that it was denser than now. No wonder the herbs did not sprout. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaohua was a little puzzled. The Aroma sect was a large sect with immortal inheritance. How could they not know about qi of heaven and earth? Since they knew that the qi of heaven and earth was scarce, why did they still do useless work here? By the way, the herbs in the Huanxi mountain villa have sprouted. But what happened later? The qi of heaven and earth is still not enough to support the growth of those herbs. Maybe they can be transplanted to the Rejuvenation Valley or the Aroma sect. Of course, when Zhang Xiaohua explored the Righteous Alliance, she went to the Huanxi mountain villa when she came out. But it was at night and there was heavy snow, so she did not pay attention to the herb field. Now, she naturally did not have any impression of it. I really have a predestined relationship with this herb that does not sprout. Zhang Xiaohua laughed secretly. But, if this is the herb of the Huanxi mountain villa, I will find a way. Well, since the well water in the Guozhuang house has qi of heaven and earth, the water soaked in primordial stone must also have qi of heaven and earth. If I water it, maybe it will sprout. But, does it have anything to do with me whether the herbs of the Aroma sect will sprout? Primordial stone is the proof of cultivation. Every time I use it, it will be less. I must not waste it. However, as for whether the water soaked in primordial stone could make the herbs speak, Zhang Xiaohua was still willing to try. Of course, it was only an attempt. She did not have the intention to promote it on a large scale. The herb field was just taken over from the other disciples today. Although those people were a little lazy, they cleaned it up very well. There was nothing to do today, so Zhang Xiaohua only took a rough look and slowly walked back to the cave. It was noon. The sun shone down from the sky in the south, illuminating the cave entrance. Zhang Xiaohua took out the praying mat from her purse and sat cross-legged under the sun. Then, she took out the sword manual that she found in the scabbard of the jade water sword. Time was limited that night, so he did not look at it carefully. He only roughly looked through the 81 sword moves. He felt that it was a little strange and inappropriate. Since there was nothing to do today, it was the best time to comprehend it. Zhang Xiaohua had only seen fist manuals before, so he was a little unfamiliar with sword manuals. He first memorized the diagram of the first move and the flow of inner energy. Then, he took out the jade water sword and stood up from the ground. According to his thoughts, he executed the sword moves according to the sword moves. But with inner energy, he could execute the sword moves, but he always felt that they were not coordinated. Zhang Xiaohua shook his head and sat down with his sword. He opened the sword manual again and continued to read. He memorized sword moves one by one and simulated them in his mind. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua seemed to have returned to the time when he first learned the Arhat fist at Huanxi Mountain Villa. In his mind, a small figure holding a long sword was executed according to the records in the sword manual. The sun gradually moved to the west, and Zhang Xiaohua had already memorized most of the sword techniques. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaohua, who had always had an indifferent expression, frowned, and then a trace of joy appeared in his eyes. His two hands naturally picked up the sword manual on his knees and brought it close to his eyes to look at it carefully. After looking at it for a while, the corners of Zhang Xiaohua's mouth seemed to reveal a smile. He muttered to himself in a low voice, "I was wondering why this sword manual looked a little awkward. Every move was a little inappropriate." It was as if the links between the moves were not smooth and there were hundreds of flaws. So this set of sword moves is not a simple martial arts sword move, but a change of the immortal sword moves. If not for the 41st to 46th moves being extremely similar to the sword moves that Elder Yu taught me, I would not have been able to tell. If that's the case, this sword manual cannot be looked at so simply. The flow of internal energy and the long sword in his hand may have been modified by a martial arts senior in the future. N. Look carefully at the angles of each set of 9 moves and the undrawn trajectories. As soon as he finished speaking, he memorized the remaining sword moves by heart, and then he closed his eyes and pondered. He divided the 81 sword moves he saw into 9 groups of 9, and he carefully comprehended the trajectories and connections within them. After a long time, Zhang Xiaohua did not open his eyes. He only reached into his bosom and took out Chasing Dream. Releasing his divine sense, he saw Chasing Dream draw a beautiful arc in front of his eyes. It followed a somewhat obscure new trajectory and stabbed out diagonally. Then, with a strange flip, it turned in another direction. After a long time, Chasing Dream flew crookedly back into Zhang Xiaohua's hands. Zhang Xiaohua opened his eyes and nodded gently. Although this set of flying sword moves was still unfamiliar, since it was his first time practicing it, there were also many flaws in it. However, it proved that this was indeed a set of flying sword moves for the immortal Dao, and not an ordinary set of sword moves for the martial Dao. Perhaps this improved sword move was incomparably powerful, but Zhang Xiaohua still hoped to be able to use Chasing Dream as a flying sword. That was what Qi practitioners of the immortal Dao should be capable of. However, the sword manual did not state the name of this set of sword moves, nor did she know the origins of this set of sword moves. This made Zhang Xiaohua feel a little troubled. After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua stood up again and put the sword manual away. He stood at the entrance of the cave with his hands behind his back. Looking at the boundless sea of clouds, he thought to himself, this set of sword moves was comprehended at the peak of Tianmu Peak. If it's named after this, it will be resounding. Chapter 570. However, Zhang Xiaohua stood at the entrance of the cave for a long time and looked at the sea of clouds. She couldn't think of a single word, so she could only laugh at herself. It seems that I have to learn more from young Master Li Jinfeng when I have time. His ability to speak eloquently is still very interesting. Sigh, there's no other way. Nameless swordsmanship it is then. Who asked your master to not write the name of the swordsmanship? Oh, that's wrong. This swordsmanship is already different from the swordsmanship manual. There's no human form, only Chasing Dream weaves endless killing intent in the air. Oh right, this swordsmanship is strange. The small sword moves in the air and often stabs out from unbelievable angles. Even that mysterious old man back then couldn't figure out where this swordsmanship goes. Oh right, why don't we call it weaving dreams? It's like weaving endless nightmares. Hee hee, since only I know it, I'll just call it that. This weaving dreams swordsmanship was a flying sword technique that a martial arts master of some generation had obtained from the immortal Dao. It was much stronger than the few incomplete moves of Elder Yu's swordsmanship. Although Zhang Xiaohua couldn't execute it smoothly, the simulation in her mind was like a silkworm spitting out silk. The entire flying sword surrounded the opponent so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. Even if she had to face that mysterious old man with the bronze mask in the underground hall again, Zhang Xiaohua was confident that he wouldn't be able to catch the Chasing Dream sword again. It was already late, and Zhang Xiaohua didn't plan to practice the swordsmanship anymore. This thing needed to be fists and mouth to be practiced. Practice makes perfect, so she wasn't in a hurry. She spent the entire afternoon in the cave, but Bai Huan didn't come to disturb her. Zhang Xiaohua needed to go out to meet her. Sure enough, when Zhang Xiaohua walked to the ridge of the field, Bai Huan ran over from the medicinal field and asked with concern, "Junior brother Ren, why didn't I see you for the entire afternoon? Are you unwell?" Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. Bai Huan must have been scratching his ears and cheeks all afternoon, wanting to see if she was in the cave. So she smiled and said, "Senior brother Bai, don't worry. I am lazy and like to be alone. It doesn't matter if I stay here for a day or half a day. You see, there is not much work on the top of the mountain. We can finish it easily. You can also do more things you like, right?" Bai Huan thought to herself, of course. Who doesn't know this? But the problem is that other than working, I have to keep an eye on you. Hee, if you just stay in the cave, it's also suitable. I don't need to follow you around. So Bai Huan smiled and said, "Junior brother Ren is right. You can stay in the cave. I know that you martial artists like to be quiet. If you can cultivate your internal strength, I will definitely not disturb you. There is not much work on the top of the mountain. If you want to come, come. If you don't want to come, just practice your martial arts." Then she whispered, "However, junior brother Ren, we are fated. When you first came to Tianmu Peak, I was the one who received you. Now we are working together. The next time you fight, you must tell me the order of your appearance. It's best if you tell me which King Kong you are most confident in defeating." Hee, Zhang Xiaohua laughed secretly, "I see. Looks like this guy. Oh, no, I guess all the disciples of the grass sect have this kind of plan." After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua whispered into his ear, "Martial arts should not be spread to outsiders. Senior brother Bai, let me tell you something. Out of the 10 King Kong, only the first 3 are not very confident. The rest are not a problem. The next time you fight, you can bet without worry." "Oh, right. Remember, when you bet my share as well. If you win, I will bet my share." As soon as she said this, Bai Huan beamed and waved her hand, saying, "Junior brother Ren, what are you talking about? How can I let it go like this? In the future, whatever I win will be yours. You don't have to give me any elixirs. Just divide it equally. If you lose, it will be mine too." Seeing Bai Huan gritting her teeth at the end, Zhang Xiaohua laughed secretly and said, "Forget it. It should still be some time before the next fight. When Headmaster Chen comes to find me, we can talk about this again. I will give you the elixirs to bet then." Then she said, "Senior brother Bai, this medicine field needs to be watered. Where is the spring?" Bai Huan pointed at a place below and said, "It's not far over there. However, junior brother, you don't have to go. I have already watered the medicine field." "You have already watered it? There are so many medicine fields." Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. "Of course not. How can I water so many medicine fields in half a day?" Bai Huan shook her head and said, "These medicine fields don't need to be watered every day. You just need to water 1 piece a day according to the order. I have already asked the previous senior brothers this morning. According to their habits, they only watered the left piece." Zhang Xiaohua nodded and asked, "Are there extra barrels?" "Yes." Bai Huan was stunned and pointed to the side of the hut and said, "There are more than a dozen barrels there, enough for 7 or 8 people. 4 of us are enough." "Well, okay, I will go to the spring to take a look." After that, Zhang Xiaohua walked to the side of the hut and took a wooden barrel. Bai Huan smiled apologetically and said, "I will accompany junior brother." "Don't." Zhang Xiaohua immediately shook her head and said, "Senior brother, you should do something else. I will go and take a look, and then I will come back." After that, without waiting for Bai Huan's reply, she lifted her leg and left. Bai Huan knew that Zhang Xiaohua didn't want him to follow, so he looked up and didn't follow. Zhang Xiaohua walked for the time it took to drink a cup of tea. Sure enough, he found a pool of spring water in a low-lying place. The spring water flowed out from the stone wall, forming a small pool. Zhang Xiaohua scanned it with his divine sense and didn't find anything unusual. He fetched a bucket of spring water and returned. Although Bai Huan didn't follow, her eyes kept glancing in that direction. It wasn't until she saw Zhang Xiaohua's figure that she breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Xiaohua carried the wooden barrel back to the cave. She took out a prenatal stone from her arms and threw it into the barrel. Then she threw the barrel aside and ignored it. Today, she had learned the dream-weaving swordsmanship, which was her biggest gain. It was still early, so Zhang Xiaohua sat cross-legged and finished her homework of comprehending the heavenly Tao. Unknowingly, it was already late. The moon was bright and the stars were few. The entire Tianmu Peak was immersed in darkness. In the hut next to the herb field, there was light at first, but after a long time, it went out. Not long after, there was a slight snoring sound. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared from a corner outside the hut. He looked around and seemed to be listening. Then, he suddenly disappeared. Just like how he appeared just now, if Bai Huan saw him now, she would exclaim that she had seen a ghost. This figure was Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua saw that it was late and there was still some time before midnight, so she used Earth Escape and went to the Dan department on the west side of Tianmu Peak. During the day, the Dan department's alchemy room was bustling with people. Zhang Xiaohua didn't have a chance to get close to it. This night was a good time. The west side of Tianmu Peak was different from the other three sides. When Zhang Xiaohua came out of the ground, she saw dots of light. She went to the nearest one and saw that it was where the alchemy room was. Inside, Elder Su was refining pills. There were also several disciples waiting by the side. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua didn't stop. She went down some distance. The alchemy rooms used by the ordinary disciples were all lit up. They were either refining pills or being guarded. It seemed that they didn't rest at night. Zhang Xiaohua frowned slightly. The Dan department's disciples were guarding these alchemy rooms so closely. How could she use these alchemy rooms to refine pills? It wasn't that her alchemy furnace couldn't refine pills, but it was beyond her ability to refine things like meridian-nourishing pills. Perhaps, she could only wait for the result of the discussion between Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu. After thinking, Zhang Xiaohua didn't stay any longer. She made a gesture and went underground, heading straight for the cave. But just as she was about to reach the cave, there was nothing under her feet. She actually landed in a spacious area. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked. Without waiting for her feet to touch the ground, she rolled and hid in a corner. She reached out and took out Zhu Meng, who was still in her arms. He was really frightened by the cave with the black qi under the mountain stream. Zhang Xiaohua's feet touched the ground. She held Zhu Meng in her hands and looked carefully. But this place was pitch black. She couldn't see anything. Also, Zhang Xiaohua didn't dare to release her divine sense. She just stood there quietly, on guard for a long time. After a long while, Zhang Xiaohua coughed and asked, "Is anyone here?" No one answered. Her voice reverberated in the cave. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaohua's brows jumped. She remembered that she still had a few luminous pearls in her money pouch. She reached out and took one out. Once that luminous pearl was taken out, it immediately emitted a weak light. Using the light, Zhang Xiaohua sized up this strange place. Looking at it didn't matter. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. Soon after, she released her divine sense. She carefully and boldly looked through the cave that was several tens of feet wide. Then, she took out the remaining luminous pearls in her money pouch and placed them in different places in the cave. In an instant, the entire cave was lit up. Why do you think Zhang Xiaohua was so happy? This was a rather large alchemy room. It was just that there weren't any exits around this alchemy room. There were only a few small holes in the southeast for ventilation. Under the light of the luminous pearl, Zhang Xiaohua carefully looked at this alchemy room. The layout of this alchemy room was different from the ones she had seen before. In the Rejuvenation Valley's alchemy room and the alchemy room that she saw Elder Su in the morning, the alchemy room's alchemy furnace was placed against the mountain wall above the earth fire. However, the alchemy room's alchemy furnace was placed right in the middle. The strangest thing was that this alchemy furnace placed right in the middle was incomparably huge. It was bigger than all the alchemy furnaces that Zhang Xiaohua had seen before. There were actually 8 legs at the bottom of the alchemy furnace. In contrast, the sides of this alchemy furnace actually had 8 round windows that looked like they were used to place medicine. This is an alchemy furnace? Zhang Xiaohua walked closer and used her hand to touch the alchemy furnace that was taller than her by a head. Then, she used her hand to touch the side windows of the alchemy furnace. Then, she used her divine sense to explore it. Sure enough, once her divine sense touched the alchemy furnace, it was immediately bounced back by the restrictions on the alchemy furnace and could not enter it. Zhang Xiaohua was not in a hurry. She made a hand seal and hit the alchemy furnace. After the hand seal hit the alchemy furnace, there was only a slight roar. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed and continued to hit the alchemy furnace with the subsequent hand seals. After a while, there was a crisp sound. The alchemy furnace's restriction was actually broken. Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense was no longer obstructed and easily penetrated into the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace was the same as the alchemy furnace from before. The alchemy furnace's refining method was engraved on it. Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense swept over it, and the name of the alchemy furnace immediately appeared in her mind, 8 trigrams purple gold furnace. Chapter 571. 8 trigrams purple gold furnace. Zhang Xiaohua frowned. What an arrogant name. Although he didn't know what 8 trigrams meant, the name was really pleasant to hear. In his mind, there was also the method to refine this pill furnace. Zhang Xiaohua roughly looked through it, and his tightly knitted brows quietly relaxed. To use this pill furnace, he must first refine it. This was the method used to refine high-level magic tools in the refining the world. Needless to say, this 8 trigrams purple gold furnace must be an extremely good item. I've picked up a treasure, I've picked up a treasure. Zhang Xiaohua was so happy that he almost jumped up. He was about to use the technique to refine the pill furnace, but the time was already late. The refining couldn't be completed in a short period of time. Zhang Xiaohua suppressed his surprise, steadied his mind, and was about to escape the cave. But when he used his divine sense to explore, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The corner of the pill room was about 10 zhang outside. Wasn't it the location of his cave? However, it was blocked by mud and other things. If Zhang Xiaohua accidentally escaped, no one would know that there was a huge pill room about 10 zhang inside the cave. Returning to the cave, Zhang Xiaohua calmed his mind. He took out the primeval stones from his chest, closed his eyes, and began to cultivate at night. Early in the morning, after practicing the Big Dipper fist, Zhang Xiaohua didn't cultivate anymore. He picked up the wooden bucket next to the hut and fetched water from the spring. Only when the huge water jar was filled did he stop. Then, he picked up the hoe and was about to weed the field. At this time, his heart was moved. Could it be that the medicine boy of the immortal Tao was like him, walking step by step in the medicine field and using a hoe to weed? Thinking about it, it was impossible. But how could it be done? Zhang Xiaohua rubbed his chin with his hand, carefully recalling the contents of the 100 Herbs Compendium and other jade slips. There didn't seem to be any records. Alas, he could only hoe the field at noon. Zhang Xiaohua lifted his leg and was about to step into the field, but suddenly, he thought of something. He should be able to save the process of bending down to weed. Looking at the hoe in his hand, he couldn't drive it with his spiritual sense. Should he use Chasing Dream? How shameful, using a flying sword to get rid of weeds, immortal Tao seniors would laugh themselves to death. Zhang Xiaohua suddenly cried out. She formed a seal with her hand and with a wave of her right hand, a weed was pulled out from the ground. Then, another weed was pulled out. Ha ha ha, Zhang Xiaohua laughed. Wasn't this the seal from the weapon refining school's jade slip? He had used it when he was repairing the array flags in Rejuvenation Valley. He had also inadvertently used it when he was refining the Meridian Nourishing Pill. In the past, he had thought that it could only be used on things with the chi of heaven and earth. It seemed that this incantation was suitable for everything. Perhaps the medicine apprentices of the immortal Tao also worked like this. Let's not talk about how the medicine apprentices of the immortal Tao would get rid of weeds for the time being. However, using the weapon refining school's incantation to get rid of weeds, he believed that even the medicine apprentices of the weapon refining school might not be able to grasp it to such a high level. Wasn't he using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? After reaching out to clear the weeds in the medicinal field, Zhang Xiaohua came to an inconspicuous corner of the medicinal field and poured the spring water that she had soaked in primeval stones yesterday into several places. Zhang Xiaohua scanned the spring water with her spiritual sense and found that it was rich in the qi of heaven and earth. At this moment, a voice shouted from behind, "Junior brother Ren, why are you up so early?" "Io, junior brother has already cleaned this medicinal field, right?" It was Bai Huan, who had just woken up. Zhang Xiaohua turned around and said, "Good morning, senior brother Bai. Aren't you going to sleep a little longer?" Junior brother was born in a farming family, so waking up early to work is a common occurrence. "I'm already used to it." "Senior martial brother, you don't have to be like me. Since Headmaster Chin isn't coming, you can sleep as much as you want." Bai Huan scratched his head and said, "Seeing my junior fellow apprentice working so hard, I feel lazy as your senior fellow apprentice, but, I won't be polite to you. Oh, since you have cleaned up the weeds, leave the watering to me. You can have a rest." Zhang Xiaohua didn't hold back and said with a smile, "That's good. Then it will be like this in the future. Little brother has finished all the work, senior brother can take your time. Little brother will go back to sleep. If there's nothing else, senior brother won't disturb me." "Alright, I got it." Bai Huan nodded with a smile and then asked, "I'm going down later. Is there anything else you want me to bring up?" "Let me hold it. Why should I make junior brother make another trip for something that is convenient? My David's deer has a bad temper. If it kicks you away, I can't afford it." Hearing that the David's deer was so irritable, Bai Huan smiled embarrassedly and said, "Alright, then let me hold it." Then, he went back to water the weeds with a wooden bucket. Zhang Xiaohua shrugged, smiled, and went back to the cave with the wooden bucket. She took out the jade token and wanted to set a restriction formation in front of the cave, but after thinking for a while, she thought that it would be more conspicuous if she tried to cover it up. Zhang Xiaohua went into the elixir room that she found yesterday. Last night was very short, so Zhang Xiaohua didn't have time to look carefully. At this time, except for the huge elixir furnace in the middle, the rest of the elixir room was empty. There was not a single jade bottle on the shelf next to it where the jade bottle should be placed. There was an empty table in front of her, but when her divine sense swept over it, she found a palm-sized jade slip placed neatly on it. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. To be honest, although the elixirs on the shelf were what she expected, she was most willing to get the jade slip that recorded elixir recipes, elixir refining methods, and magic arts. Floating, Zhang Xiaohua came to the table and reached out to grab it, but when she was a few inches away from the jade slip, there was a flash of light and a restriction formation stopped her. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua wasn't surprised. She released her divine sense and carefully observed the restriction formation protecting the jade slip. After a while, Zhang Xiaohua's eyes were filled with confusion, but he also seemed to have gained some enlightenment. He formed an incantation with his hands and struck the barrier. The transparent barrier flickered for a moment before disappearing again. It seemed that the incantation had no effect. Zhang Xiaohua reached into his bosom and was about to pull out Chasing Dream, but when his hand reached into his bosom, he couldn't pull out the small sword. "If I use Chasing Dream, I can draw out a warm current from the mysterious place in my left arm and break this restriction, but this is just a trick. The last time I cut open Byron's golden ball, there was a lack of warm current. That is to say, the warm current in my left arm is limited. If I use Chasing Dream to break such a simple restriction, wouldn't it be a waste? If I come across a dangerous place with black gas in the future, what should I do?" Zhang Xiaohua hesitated for a moment before coming to a decision. I'll never be able to pry into the mysteries of the great Tao if I only resort to trickery like this. It's better to be down to earth and use the spells that I've comprehended. Furthermore, this chasing dream has the effect of breaking spells. It's best to save it for when I'm in danger. Zhang Xiaohua decisively took the hand that was holding chasing dream out of her chest and continued to study the protective restriction formation in front of her. After a long time, she smiled. This restriction formation was not common, but it was also not too complicated. It was only used to protect the qi of heaven and earth in the jade slip. It was not much different from the red restriction formation in the Misty Mountain Villa. However, the qi of heaven and earth in Chuanxiang cult was denser than in other places, so the strength of the restriction formation was still there and it was still transparent. The jade slip that Elder Hua left behind contained many methods to break restrictions. Zhang Xiaohua understood most of them, but now that the immortal Tao had been destroyed, there were not many restrictions for him to practice. Although this restriction formation was not strong, it could still stump him for a long time. When he understood it, he was already confident. Dozens of complicated divine sense seals were inserted, and the transparent restriction formation flashed a few times. Then, like a bubble bursting, it disappeared with a pop sound. Yes, it disappeared in the divine sense. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the fruits of his labor and was very satisfied. The feeling of breaking restrictions by himself and using chasing dream to break restrictions was really different. Holding the jade slip in his hand, Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense penetrated it without hesitation. Sure enough, it was not outside of his expectations. This was the pill room of Chuanxiang cult. Yuhuandan pill, spirit congealing pill, spirit cleansing pill, and so on. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. He carefully looked at the prescription of the Yuhuandan pill. The prescription clearly recorded the main ingredients, the age of the herbs, the method of operation, and so on. Looking at the time of the pill's gestation, Zhang Xiaohua secretly nodded. It seemed that the Yuhuandan pill and Meridian Nourishing pill of Chuanxiang cult belonged to the Immortal Tao's low-level pills. But when he carefully looked at the main ingredients of the Yuhuandan pill, he could not help but shake his head. The two main ingredients of the Yuhuandan pill were recorded in the Compendium of Herbs. The age of the two ingredients was also more than 50 years. It seemed that in his memory, there was no such ingredient in the herbs that he had just obtained. However, Zhang Xiaohua immediately laughed. Nonsense, this Yuhuandan pill was the secret medicine of Chuanxiang cult. The inner alchemists knew how to refine it, so they naturally knew what herbs were needed. These herbs must be protected. How could they let an ordinary disciple of Tua Dan Hall have it? Then he looked at the other pills, but he did not see the herbs described. Zhang Xiaohua was not discouraged. The qi of heaven and earth was passing away. It was a great fortune to be able to obtain this jade slip. Now that he knew the alchemy room, he only needed to collect the pills to refine it. Right now, he had to refine the alchemy furnace first. Carefully putting the jade slip into his money bag, Zhang Xiaohua turned to face the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace that was taller than him. Under the brilliance of the luminous pearl, the huge body of the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace looked very imposing. Looking at it, Zhang Xiaohua could not help but be puzzled. Should high-grade goods be big? Penetrating his spiritual sense into the furnace, Zhang Xiaohua carefully reviewed the method of refining the alchemy furnace. In the beginning, Zhang Xiaohua was still beaming with joy, but in the end, his relaxed expression gradually disappeared and his brows knitted together. The incantation described how to refine the alchemy furnace. The first part was similar to the method in Zhang Xiaohua's money bag, but the last step was to spit out a trace of the refiner's life origin qi into the alchemy furnace. Only then could he completely control it. What is this life origin qi? Zhang Xiaohua was extremely puzzled. Chapter 572. What is true life origin? That's right, who knows? Perhaps the legendary Foundation establishment cultivators would know. In any case, Zhang Xiaohua, who had just reached the middle stage of the aura refining realm, was completely baffled. However, although she didn't know how to spit out the true life origin, she could control the majority of the spells. Zhang Xiaohua also didn't want to give up this opportunity to refine the pill. If she knew the last step, wouldn't it be fine if she didn't spit it out? Presumably, Zhang Xiaohua closed her eyes and pondered for a while. This refining spell wasn't complicated. She only needed to memorize it for a moment to familiarize herself with it. Then, she practiced a little with her hands. She took a deep breath and transferred her true qi to her fingertips. Meticulously, she made a hand seal and sent it into the pill furnace. As the hand seal was sent in, the huge pill furnace gradually moved from motionless to slightly responding. In the end, it actually buzzed, as if a giant was waking up. Seeing that the pill furnace also emitted a five-colored brilliance, Zhang Xiaohua's forehead gradually became sweaty. However, her face was abnormally excited. Although she had manipulated the small pill furnace like this before, compared to now, the feeling was simply like a little boy playing with mud. The buzzing sound of the pill furnace seemed to be from afar at first, then moved to her ears, then to her eyes, and finally seemed to reach her heart. When the true qi in Zhang Xiaohua's body was about to dry up, the hand seal also reached the end. The buzzing sound also reached the extreme, and the brilliance also became more and more resplendent. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua felt that she seemed to have a trace of connection with the pill furnace. However, this connection was faintly discernible, and she couldn't be sure. Just when she needed to break through this layer of window paper, Zhang Xiaohua stopped. Yes, the next step was to spit. Zhang Xiaohua didn't know how to do it, so she had to stop. With the stop of Zhang Xiaohua's hand seal, the buzzing sound of the pill furnace gradually stopped, and the five-colored brilliance also gradually faded. However, the buzzing sound was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, and the brilliance was sometimes bright and sometimes dim. It seemed that it had not reached the climax, and it still wanted to continue. Zhang Xiaohua sighed and shrugged, saying, pill furnace, I'm really sorry. I also don't know how to spit. That's it. Finally, you can use it. Be content. After that, regardless of the pill furnace's situation, she sat cross-legged, took out primordial stones, and absorbed the primordial qi inside. Not to mention that Zhang Xiaohua had finished handling the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace in the cave. Bai Huan watered the herbal field, tidied it up, and went down the peak, straight to Chen Fengxiao's residence. Chen Fengxiao was talking to several Luohan and other managers in the hall. When he saw Bai Huan coming over, he felt very strange and waved his hand to let the others leave. He said with a smile, "Junior brother Bai, it's been hard on you. Usually, you are very free here. In the future, you will have to suffer at the top of the mountain." Hearing this, Bai Huan quickly bowed and said, "It's nothing. It's my honor to be able to do something for Head Chen. Moreover, Head Chen has not mistreated me." "Well, that's good. However, you just came up the mountain yesterday, and now you come to me. Is there something wrong with junior brother Ren?" This. Bai Huan did not know where to start and said, "Head Chen, there is nothing wrong with him. Junior brother Ren is indeed good at planting herbs, just like the medicine boy from Rejuvenation Valley. It's just that, It's just what?" Chen Fengxiao was also curious. He sent Bai Huan to keep an eye on Zhang Xiaohua because he wanted to see if there was anything unusual about Zhang Xiaohua. It had only been a day, but she had already given herself away. Therefore, Bai Huan told him that Zhang Xiaohua refused to live in the same hut as him and insisted on living in a cave by herself. What? Chen Fengxiao was also stunned. There is such a person. Instead of living in a good house, he insisted on living in a cave. Chen Fengxiao was also puzzled. He frowned and said, "Is this Ren Xiaoyao a woman?" Bai Huan laughed and said, "Head Chen is wise. When did Rejuvenation Valley send a female medicine boy? Moreover, do you think a woman can defeat Qingshi? Besides, although junior brother Ren has just arrived, We have been together for a few days. No matter how I look at him, he is not a woman. Chen Fengxiao glared at Bai Huan, and Bai Huan immediately choked back her laughter. Then Chen Fengxiao secretly laughed at his own sensitivity. He is the son-in-law of Rejuvenation Valley. How can he be a woman? Then why does he want to live by himself? Is there any secret? What is the secret? Chen Fengxiao was really puzzled. Then he asked Bai Huan to tell him what she had just said, including the situation after they left yesterday. Still at a loss, Chen Fengxiao rubbed his temples with his hands and thought, needless to say, this Ren Xiaoyao must have some secret. But he is alone on the high Tianmu peak in a cave that no one has ever paid attention to. That shabby cave is just a small place. What can he do? Practice internal strength? Yes, I guess he is practicing internal strength. A knowing smile appeared on Chen Fengxiao's face. Yes, he had also practiced internal strength. Naturally, he knew the environment that was important for practicing internal strength. That night was the most important time to cultivate internal strength. It was the most important time to cultivate internal strength. Zhang Xiaohua's martial arts were not good, but her lightness skill was good. She must have a certain level of attainment in internal strength. He must practice at night. Therefore, he had to live in the cave and cultivate by himself, so that he would not be disturbed by Bai Huan. It had to be said that Chen Fengxiao's conjecture was infinitely close to the truth. Since he's cultivating his internal energy, then he's only trying to increase his strength so that he'll have a chance to pass the outer sect assessment and become an outer sect disciple. This is exactly the same as what he said earlier. And, as long as he doesn't interfere with the affairs of Tianmu Peak and doesn't interact with the disciples of the grass and pill divisions, why should I care about him? The more hardworking he is, the higher his martial arts will be. In the future, I will be more confident in winning the bet between the grass division and pill division. Why should I not do it? After making up his mind, Chen Fengxiao walked in front of Bai Huan and patted him on the shoulder. Thank you for your hard work, junior brother Bai. Then let junior brother Ren go. He can do whatever he wants. You just have to keep an eye on him. In fact, you don't have to report to me too much. If you see anything unusual in the future, it won't be too late to tell me. If you come here frequently, you may attract junior brother Ren's attention. Oh, of course, we don't have any bad intentions. It's just that he is new here. It's only right that we care about him. If our good intentions are misunderstood by junior brother Ren, it won't be good. Don't you think so? That's right, that's right. Headmaster Chen's warmth has blessed all the brothers of Tianmu Peak. Bai Huan's flattery continued. Okay, junior brother Bai. Go back now and work hard. Your future is limitless. I have faith in you, thank you for your guidance, Headmaster Chen. I understand. After saying that, Bai Huan bowed and left. Looking at Bai Huan's gradually disappearing figure, Chen Fengxiao rubbed his chin with his hand and muttered to himself, this junior brother is really interesting. He looks like a person with some ideas, but he keeps such a low profile. Does he only practice martial arts? It's true that practicing martial arts can make you stand out in the incense order, but can you compare to the inner disciples of the incense order? Can you compare to Lu Lihong? Oh, that's right. This guy also exchanged a lot of medicinal herbs. He has quite a lot of good karma and has quite a bit of prestige among the disciples. Could it be that he really did exchange medicinal herbs as he said? Was it really because he had no choice? Or did he have other plans? I can't see through him. I still have to ask Wu Dalong. If this interesting junior brother can really refine pills, then it'll be a secret of my grass division. Thinking of this, Chen Fengxiao's heart was burning with passion. Although he had the highest level of martial arts on Tianmu Peak and was much higher than Wu Zhouxiu, his actual right to speak was much less than Wu Zhouxiu. The most fundamental reason was that Wu Zhouxiu controlled the pill department. The pill department was the place where pills were refined. All the hard currency, pills, had to pass through the pill department. As mentioned earlier, Although the pill expanding hall had strict regulations to control the flow of pills, after all, there are policies at the top and countermeasures at the bottom. Wu Zhouxiu controlled a lot of resources from the pill department. If I can control some pills, Tianmu Peak should be mine. A trace of greed appeared in Chen Fengxiao's eyes. He couldn't sit still any longer. He immediately stood up and walked out. In the pill room, Zhang Xiaohua was cultivating with his eyes closed. The yuan qi of heaven and earth in the vitality stones continuously rushed into his meridians. The speed was actually 2 times faster than before. With the replenishment of the yuan qi, his dried-up meridians were gradually filled with vital qi. Not far away, the newly refined 8 trigrams purple gold furnace also gradually regained its luster. With the replenishment of the vital qi, it seemed to be slowly regaining its vitality. After an unknown period of time, Zhang Xiaohua opened his eyes and secretly checked. He was delighted to find that his cultivation, which had already reached the peak of the 6th layer of qi refining when he was cultivating in Rejuvenation Valley, seemed to have taken half a step forward again. His path to the 7th layer of qi refining was already slightly loosened. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. Ever since he had reached the 6th layer of qi refining, he had never stopped cultivating the Carefree Heart Sutra. However, his progress every day was minuscule. Afterwards, he had made some progress in repairing the formation flags. Today, he had actually taken another crucial half a step in refining the pill furnace. It really was the so-called cultivation should be done during the day. Pursing his lips and smiling, Zhang Xiaohua stood up. He stretched out his hand and pointed at one side of the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace. The tightly shut mouth of the furnace slightly rotated, revealing the dark space inside. Soon after, Zhang Xiaohua formed a seal with his hand. With a flick of his finger, the seal landed on the platform below the pill furnace. With a light boom, a wisp of flame actually appeared on the platform. Soon after, the entire platform was set ablaze. The green flame was precisely the bottom of the pill furnace. When the temperature of the pill furnace was suitable, Zhang Xiaohua struck out a few more seals. They hit the opening of the furnace that had just been opened. With another boom, a wisp of flame also appeared inside the pill furnace near the opening of the furnace. This light red wisp of flame contained an even finer purple color. It jumped and jumped as if it had a life of its own. Zhang Xiaohua murmured, "So this is the legendary true Samadhi fire." Chapter 573. According to the records in the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace, the true Samadhi fire was a fire born from wood fire, stone fire, and air fire. It was the fire necessary to refine top-grade elixirs. And this true Samadhi fire was also a fire specially used by qi cultivators. It was different from the fire in the mortal world. Normal water could not extinguish it. It was 100 times stronger than the fire that Zhang Xiaohua could produce now. Looking at the faint red flame in the pill furnace, Zhang Xiaohua did not seem to feel its heat. Thus, he took out a piece of jade from his bosom and used a small sword to cut off a piece. He threw it into the flame. With a "chi" sound, the thumb-sized piece of jade immediately turned into a wisp of green smoke. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua nodded secretly and cut off another piece. After casting a spell into the flame, he threw the jade piece into the flame. This time, the jade piece did not turn into green smoke. Instead, under the tempering of the flame, it gradually shrank and finally became a piece of jade liquid the size of a soybean. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand and the jade liquid flew out of the furnace and stopped in front of Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua used his eyes to look at the jade liquid and used his divine sense to scan it. That jade liquid actually had a slight fluctuation of vitality. The true Samadhi fire is indeed amazing. Zhang Xiaohua sighed secretly. It's just that this fire is used to refine high-grade elixirs. Normally, refining low-grade elixirs is like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. It's not worth it. After extinguishing the true samadhi fire, Zhang Xiaohua looked along the 8 sides of the furnace. There were openings on all 8 sides of the furnace and each opening had a name. They were Qian, Kuan, Sun, Dui, Zhen, Zhen, Li, Kansas. These 8 openings had their own corresponding formations. When refining elixirs, according to the attributes of the herbs, if different herbs were thrown into different openings for tempering, the medicinal properties would be increased by 30% and the success rate of refining elixirs would be increased by 20%. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaohua frowned slightly. He already had some experience with the attributes of herbs. It should be divided into the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. How could there be the 8 trigrams attribute here? He had even set up 8 arrays according to the 8 attributes. Furthermore, there was the phrase, pill success rate. Could it be that refining high-level pills was really that difficult? However, the current Zhang Xiaohua could only refine low-tier medicinal pills. She hadn't even come into contact with middle-tier medicinal pills. How would she know the difficulties of high-tier medicinal pills? Fortunately, since this 8 trigrams purple gold furnace could refine high-tier medicinal pills, if she didn't use the true samadhi fire, it would be the same as the Rejuvenation Valley's furnace. It was more than enough to refine the meridian soothing pill. The flames on the platform below the furnace were magical. It was different from the earth fire in the Rejuvenation Valley and the pill department on the west side of Heaven Eye Peak. This flame was burning on the platform out of thin air. After Zhang Xiaohua finished observing the true samadhi fire, she extinguished the flames on the platform. Very naturally, she swept her divine sense over the platform. There were complicated symbols carved on the platform. It seemed to be a kind of formation. Presumably, the earth fire could be connected to the bottom of the platform and this formation was to restrict the earth fire. The pill department on the west side of Heaven Eye Peak should have been the same as the platform in this pill department. It was just that no one was able to perform the incantation, or did not know how to ignite the fire. They had no choice but to tear down the platform and install a mechanism to control the earth fire. Perhaps Rejuvenation Valley was the same 10,000 years ago. Zhang Xiaohua thought. After lamenting the wonders of the immortal Tao, Zhang Xiaohua struck out several incantations according to the records on the furnace. That 8 trigrams purple gold furnace actually shrank a lot like a small furnace. Zhang Xiaohua took out her money pouch and took out the pile of jade coffin lids. She tried to store the furnace inside as well. Then, Zhang Xiaohua took out the 2 pill furnaces and piled the unimportant items in the money pouch on the ground to free up the space in the money pouch. That was because there were still many medicinal herbs piled up on the mountainside of Heaven Eye Peak. They were all needed for refining pills. Although they were worthless in the eyes of the pill expanding hall disciples, it was better to store them as soon as possible. However, it was indeed a little troublesome to pack them up. If she put all these jade boxes into the money pouch and brought them back to the pill department, it would definitely attract the attention of the other disciples. At the very least, Chen Fengxiao would doubt how she did it or where these jade boxes were placed. After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua turned her gaze to the pile of jade coffin lids. Only by refining them into jade boxes to store the medicinal herbs could she take away the medicinal herbs in the jade boxes. She did as she said. Anyway, there was earth fire in this pill department. She could just treat it as familiarizing herself with refining weapons. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua raised the earth fire again and broke open the jade. She wanted to refine a batch of jade boxes of different sizes. The jade boxes for storing medicinal herbs looked inconspicuous, but in fact, they were quite troublesome. It would be easy if they were slender cubes like those of the pill expanding hall disciples of the Chuanxiang cult. However, Zhang Xiaohua's jade boxes needed to be set with inhibition. After making only a few, she felt that her genuine qi was not enough, so she had to stop to replenish her genuine qi. She did this and stopped until it was late. However, she only made about 10 of them. Feeling that it was getting late, Zhang Xiaohua extinguished the earth fire and went out directly without packing up. On Tianmu Peak, the sun had already set in the west. There was only a trace of light in the west, and the east had long been hidden in darkness. Zhang Xiaohua came out of the cave and felt that someone was looking at her. She used her spiritual awareness and found that it was Bai Huan who was squatting behind a big tree. Zhang Xiaohua pretended that she did not know. She walked slowly to the medicine field and looked down carefully. Bai Huan came out from behind the tree and said loudly, "Junior brother Ren, it's already dark. Why are you still wandering in the medicine field?" Zhang Xiaohua looked up and smiled, "So it's senior brother Bai. Alas, I stayed in the cave for a day and was very bored, so I came out for a walk." "Oh, the medicine field is not germinating. I don't know why. If we can find the reason, won't we be able to hold our heads high?" "Forget it," Bai Huan said disdainfully. Originally, the star tree fruit was planted at the top of Tianmu Peak, which was the main ingredient for refining elixirs by the inner disciples. Moreover, it was growing very well, with a medicinal age of 20 years. But 4 or 5 years ago, our hall master suddenly led the inner disciples here and searched all over the peak for a suitable place. In the end, they settled on these few medicinal fields and plucked all the original star tree fruits and transplanted them to the side. Only then did they plant some unknown seeds. Well, since then, they have never sprouted. Moreover, those inner disciples would come here every year to check and dig out the seeds to take a look. From time to time, they would even change the seeds. How can we do something that even the inner disciples can't do? It's almost the same as a dream. 4 or 5 years ago. Zhang Xiaohua narrowed her eyes and thought, wasn't that the time when the Misty School was destroyed? Was it also when the incense cult attacked the Misty Villa? Could it be that the disciples of the incense cult saw the germinating seeds of the Misty Villa and thought of planting them themselves? But, I don't know what kind of herbs were planted in the Misty Villa and what kind of herbs were planted in the incense cult. However, since even the germination of the seeds requires very rich qi of heaven and earth, this kind of herb must be extremely rare or something that has long been extinct. But since it is an extinct herb, where did they get the seeds? Well, the qi of heaven and earth in the incense cult is richer than outside, maybe it can preserve the seeds. Oh, what about the Huanxi Villa? They can't preserve it, can they? Alas, forget it, don't think about it. I'll just ask Sister O Yen when I have the chance in the future. After thinking about it, Zhang Xiaohua raised her head and said, that's not necessarily true. The inner disciples are only stronger than us in martial arts. When it comes to planting herbs, doesn't the whole incense cult rely on the grass brothers of the pill expanding hall? Bai Huan was also beaming with joy. Junior brother Ren is right. The herbs we use to spread the incense cult are really the hard work of our brothers from the grass division. Then she changed the topic, but, we only plant ordinary herbs. The ones that don't germinate must be rare herbs. That is not the specialty of our grass division. Hey, you also know that it is a rare herb? Zhang Xiaohua thought to himself. Just as he was about to speak, Bai Huan beat him to it. Anyway, I'm not interested in this. As long as I water, weed, and do my job well, I'll wait for the inner disciples to check. Oh, if junior brother Ren is interested in this, you may pay more attention to it. If you can really find the way to germinate, then you will really be rich. You can get the favor of the inner disciples and become an outer disciple, or go to the inner disciple to learn alchemy. It will be easy for you. Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, and she asked, do inner disciples also practice alchemy? Bai Huan shook her head, inner disciples themselves don't refine elixirs. They have special alchemists who refine elixirs for them. Each of these alchemists is regarded as powerful by the old consecrators of our pill department. It is said that only the alchemists of their inner sect can refine jade rejuvenation elixir. You can never imagine the treatment they receive. What kind of treatment can I not imagine? Oh, by the way, how do the inner alchemists practice alchemy? This. Bai Huan was a little hesitant, and said, to be honest, I have only seen the disciples of the pill department practice alchemy. The few old alchemists are not as good as us. How can I know how the inner disciples practice alchemy? Their treatment is just a rumor. How can disciples like us enter the lingering fragrance peak? Can't we go to the lingering fragrance peak? Zhang Xiaohua was a little curious. Well, only the inner disciples, those who are related to the inner disciples, and the hall masters and deputy hall masters of each hall can enter the lingering fragrance peak. Others can't enter the lingering fragrance peak. What about the outer disciples? The outer disciples are just disciples of the Wuming Hall. Of course, they can't enter the lingering fragrance peak. However, if an outer disciple is very outstanding and can be favored by the inner alchemists or inner teachers, he can enter the lingering fragrance peak. Well, by the way, if an outer disciple can pass the inner assessment, he can also enter the lingering fragrance peak. Alas, unfortunately, as far as I know, it has been 100 years. Except for a genius 300 years ago, no one is qualified to take the inner assessment. Inner assessment? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned again. This was the first time she had heard of it. Well, the outer disciples have an assessment. If they pass it, they can be qualified to travel in Jianghu. The results of this assessment are divided into 3 grades, high, medium, and low. Only with a high grade can they be qualified to take the inner assessment. It has been hundreds of years since anyone got a high grade in the outer assessment. Chapter 574. So complicated? Zhang Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. Aren't they just inner disciples? Why are the classes so clear? It's not as simple and easy to understand as the commoner and brocade disciples of the Misty School. Zhang Xiaohua curled his lips and said, according to Senior Brother Bai, the disciples of the Pill Expanding Hall are the lowest disciples in the fragrance cult, right? Bai Huan smiled and said, Junior Apprentice Brother Ren, what are you talking about? Sir Hierarch has always taught us that no matter which hall we are from, no matter what business we do, we are all disciples of the fragrant cult and are equal. Then, he whispered, we are not the worst. The worst is the Qiankun Hall. They are the handymen and have to do everything in the cult. They can't be picky and suffer hardships. Zhang Xiaohua touched his nose and said secretly, that's right. You guys are still in the mood to gamble. Planting medicine fields is not the worst. Alas, I don't know how the disciples of the Misty Hall live. He wanted to change the topic and ask, but thinking that Bai Huan might not know anything, he said, it's late. Senior Brother Bai, why don't you go to bed early? You have to weed and water the fields tomorrow. Bai Huan waved his hand and said, that's trivial. As a disciple of the grass sect, I have the awareness of being a disciple of the grass sect. These things will not be delayed. If Junior Brother Ren is tired, he should go to bed early. But why don't I see Junior Brother Ren practicing martial arts? On the mountainside, the disciples of the grass sect have specially set aside a big training field for several arhats. Sometimes I also see them practicing. I saw Senior Brother Qian lift such a big stone weight himself. It's really amazing. As he said, Bai Huan made an exaggerated gesture with his hands. Zhang Xiaohua pursed his lips and smiled, saying, I have my own time to practice martial arts. Senior Brother Bai, don't worry. Oh, I see. Bai Huan looked enlightened. I won't disturb Junior Brother Ren. Don't worry, don't worry. Ha, you must tell me in advance the next time you gamble. Bai Huan was still worried. Zhang Xiaohua nodded. Don't worry, Senior Martial Brother Bai. I've said it many times. Then, he looked at the sky and said, it's still early. I'll go down the mountain and bring the 4 odd beasts up. I'll go with you, Bai Huan said first. Don't. Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly stopped him. I'd better go by myself. It's too slow for 2 people to go. I'll be back in a moment. Oh, I understand. Junior brother, go quickly. It's getting dark. Bai Huan had a look of understanding. Zhang Xiaohua smiled at Bai Huan and stood up. Without looking back, she jumped straight down, which made Bai Huan panic for a while, and then her face was full of envy. The small courtyard on the mountainside was still cold and cheerless. Only the 4 odd beasts were strolling around the courtyard. When they smelled Zhang Xiaohua's breath, they cried out and stuck their tongues on Zhang Xiaohua's hand, licking it again and again. Zhang Xiaohua patted Huan's head to comfort her, and then walked into the courtyard. The mountain of jade boxes had been moved into the house by the disciples of the grass division under Chiu Wei Cheng's command, and the whole house was full. After entering the house, Zhang Xiaohua did not light the lamp. She scanned the house with her divine sense, and then took out the money bag. With a wave of her hand, hundreds of jade boxes filled with qi of heaven and earth were put into the money bag. The small mountain of jade boxes suddenly lost hundreds of them, but it was not obvious. Zhang Xiaohua wanted to take more herbs, but the herbs needed for the Yuandan pill, spirit congealing pill, and other secret elixirs of the fragrance division were not available here. She could only refine the soothing meridians pill and the bone congealing pill. The formula of the bone congealing pill had not been carefully studied, so she did not know what herbs were needed. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua picked up the great wisdom sword from the corner of the house, flashed out of the house, and then brought Huan up to the top of Tianmu Peak. However, just as Zhang Xiaohua came out of the bamboo forest, she suddenly realized that in the corner of the bamboo forest, there was a figure quietly hiding behind a rock, staring at her. Her divine sense swept over, and it was actually the great guardian deity of the Dan department, Zhou Shuming. Zhang Xiaohua was surprised. Could it be that this guy is interested in the herbs in the small courtyard? But, that's not right. If he wanted to take the herbs, he would have taken them a few days ago. Why would he wait until now? Could it be? Zhang Xiaohua could not help but let out a humph from her nose. Sure enough, Zhang Xiaohua rode on Huan all the way up, and Zhou Shuming followed from afar, not coming close. When Zhang Xiaohua reached the peak, and casually put Huan aside, Zhou Shuming quietly hid in a big tree, and watched from afar. Alas, Zhang Xiaohua sighed, this Wu Dalong and Headmaster Chen have the same thoughts. They both want to know my every move. But, what do I have that is worthy of your attention? What I don't want you to know, can you know? You can only know what I want you to know. Shaking her head, Zhang Xiaohua no longer paid attention to the guy on the big tree in the distance, who was still trying his best to hide his tracks. She picked up the great wisdom sword and returned to the cave. After inserting the sword at the entrance of the cave and setting up a restriction, Zhang Xiaohua entered the pill room. First, she took out the several hundred jade boxes from the money pouch, and selected the most precious few herbs. She placed them into the jade box she refined, and set up a restriction. Only then did Zhang Xiaohua take out the pill formula for the bone solidifying pill, and carefully studied it from beginning to end. The bone solidifying pill was a pill commonly used by the immortal Tao, used to heal injured bones and tendons. There were a total of 3 main ingredients: iron bone grass, fragrant soul wood, and blackwood fruit. Early on, when the immortal Tao was flourishing, these herbs were commonly seen. Moreover, they were very old. The most powerful, bone-solidifying pill, could regenerate broken bones. Wow! Zhang Xiaohua was very excited. This is the true method of the immortal Tao, regenerating broken bones. Isn't this just a myth in the legends? Although Zhang Xiaohua had successfully refined the meridian soothing pill, its effects were still uncertain. Zhang Xiaohua herself didn't know whether she should try it or not. However, this bone-solidifying pill was really the immortal pill that people usually talked about. How could she not cry out in surprise? The most important thing was that the iron bone grass, fragrant soul wood, and golden fruit were the more commonly used herbs recorded in the Compendium of Materia Medica. A few days ago, Zhang Xiaohua exchanged pills from Chen Fengxiao, Si Huinan, and Bai Huan in the gambling fight. In fact, it was precisely because these 3 herbs were relatively common in the past that Zhang Xiaohua could easily exchange for them. As for many other herbs, because Zhang Xiaohua didn't pay attention to them, she didn't know what good ones there were. Since the main ingredients had been prepared, there was no need to talk about the auxiliary ingredients. Zhang Xiaohua carefully recalled that there were a lot of auxiliary ingredients in the jade box just now. Some of them should be in the small courtyard on the mountainside. When it was time to refine the bone-solidifying pill, she could go and get them. Well, there was no need. Anyway, she would refine the jade box in a few days and bring the following herbs to the elixir room. The bone-solidifying pill was a low-level elixir, and its refining method was similar to that of the meridian-soothing pill. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the refining method on the prescription and put it away. Then, she ignited the earth fire on the platform and continued to refine the jade box for the herbs. This time, she didn't use Zhang Xiaohua's own jasper. Wasn't the empty jade box just right? She should save as much as she could. Until late at night, Zhang Xiaohua didn't go out. Instead, she sat cross-legged in the elixir room and practiced her Carefree Heart Sutra. In this way, Zhang Xiaohua took care of the medicine field in the early morning and hid in the elixir room to refine the jade box. Then, she comprehended the heavenly Tao and the formation and restriction. Then, she would show up in the medicine field from time to time and water the spring water that had been soaked in primordial stones in an inconspicuous corner of the medicine field. Well, when the night was deep, Zhang Xiaohua still had to avoid Zhou Shuming's gaze. Every day, she would go to the small courtyard on the mountainside with the 100 Herbs Compendium in her hand and identify the herbs in the jade box in the small courtyard. Then, she would put them into her own jade box and leave the empty jade box in the small room. Needless to say, the fragrance cult was indeed a great cult with immortal inheritance, and the pill-expanding hall was indeed the place where the fragrance cult supplied herbs. There were thousands of strange herbs in these thousands of jade boxes. Many of them were not recorded in the ancient books of Rejuvenation Valley. They were all immortal herbs recorded in the 100 Herbs Compendium. Every time she saw rare herbs, Zhang Xiaohua secretly admired her own wisdom. If she hadn't had the idea of exchanging elixirs for herbs, how could she have made these disciples take out their herbs? Moreover, Bai Huan and Si Huinan had made a good start by exchanging rare or unknown herbs for elixirs. Although they didn't want to say it clearly, how could there be a wall in the world that didn't have a crack? The disciples of the herb division and the pill division had already investigated them thoroughly. Therefore, when those disciples took out herbs to exchange for the elixirs they owed Zhang Xiaohua, they also lost face. They were all very good herbs. Of course, if they weren't rare, how could they be collected by them? Not to mention Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu, they took out even rarer herbs. They couldn't afford to lose face. Exchanging ordinary herbs for elixirs. Could they be taken out? It was very tiring to refine the jade boxes. It was even more tiring to take out the herbs from the jade boxes and find the names and uses of the herbs from the 100 Herbs Compendium, not to mention repeating the same action in thousands of jade boxes. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua had been busy tirelessly and happily for nearly 20 days. Only then did she gradually transfer her astonishing wealth from the small courtyard at the mountainside to the pill room at the top of the mountain, leaving only a pile of empty jade boxes in the small courtyard. Alas, it wasn't that Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to take these jade boxes. Unfortunately, the space in her purse was limited and she really couldn't fit them all. Moreover, she had to hide something, so she had to reluctantly part with them. On this day, Zhang Xiaohua was comprehending the way of heaven in the pill room. Suddenly, her heart stirred. She escaped into the cave, tidied her clothes, and walked out. She heard someone shouting outside the cave, "Little brother, are you here?" Chapter 575. That voice belonged to the head of Tianmu Peak's grass division, Chen Fengxiao. Zhang Xiaohua replied as she walked, "Master Chen, is it? Little brother is sleeping. Please wait a moment, I'll be out soon." Although she said, soon, she had already walked to the side of the cave. When she exited the cave, she saw Chen Fengxiao standing nearby with his hands clasped behind his back. Zhang Xiaohua quickly walked forward and bowed. Just as she was about to speak, Chen Fengxiao beat her to it. Little brother, you're in such a good mood. You don't even want to stay in a nice little house, but insist on staying in this cave. If I hadn't come up the mountain to find you, I wouldn't have known. Seeing that Chen Fengxiao was trying to hide something, Zhang Xiaohua also smiled. She turned around and pointed at the sun that was already high up in the sky. Little brother's lifelong wish is to bask in the warmth of the sun from time to time. Look, isn't this cave to the east? The first ray of sunlight is delivered to my eyes every day. It's truly like a celestial life. Celestial life? Chen Fengxiao laughed hoarsely. Little brother's request is truly extraordinary. However, this cave is dark and damp. Don't let it affect little brother's health. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. Thank you for your concern, head Chen. Before I went to Rejuvenation Valley, little brother also stayed in the cave at home. It's fine, it's fine. Then, she immediately changed the topic. Head Chen, may I know why you've come so early in the morning? Could it be that you want to bet again? Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Chen Fengxiao smiled. It seems that little brother didn't get enough of the last bet. You must have gained a lot, so you're looking forward to the next one. However, we schemed too much against the pill division last time. They haven't found a way to deal with little brother yet. I think we'll have to wait. It can't be, head Chen. Our grass division was originally weaker than the pill division. Even with me, we still haven't caught up to them. Why are they afraid? Chen Feng smiled and waved his hand, saying, these are just a few reasons. Actually, it's not like we can just hold a bet whenever we want. If our Tianmu Peak had a bet every few days, how would the disciples have the mood to work? Even if he wanted to concoct pills, he would still be thinking about the bet. How could he succeed? It's already good enough that we can hold a duel once a month. It was purely a coincidence that little brother participated last time. It's precisely because we haven't held one for a long time that Wu Dalong brought it up. Zhang Xiaohua suddenly understood. So that's how it is. If it's too frequent, Bai Yefeng probably won't agree, right? That's right. Hee hee. Moreover, the pill department seems to be busy with some missions these days. It's not easy for me to find Wu Dalong to discuss some matters. Then, he looked around and said, actually, I have something to tell you this time. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said in a low voice, Leader Chen, if there's anything you need, please instruct me. I'll do my best to accomplish it. Ha! Chen Feng laughed awkwardly and said, little brother, don't say that. This time, I'm here because, he seemed to be unable to say it out loud. Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, could it be that head boss Chen still wants some medicinal pills? I don't have any more here. Not at all, not at all. Chen Feng waved his hand repeatedly. For such a miraculous medicine like the Yuhuandan pill, one is enough. How could I dare to think more? If it weren't for Wu Dalong's carelessness, I would still be salivating at the side. Well, this time it's really related to medicinal pills. Seeing that Chen Feng couldn't say it out loud, Zhang Xiaohua was very curious. She lowered her voice and said, oh, I understand. Is it about alchemy? Chen Feng's face was a little uncomfortable. He said, yes. Zhang Xiaohua looked expectant. She rubbed her hands and said, that's great. When can you take me to see the alchemy room of our pill expanding hall? Well. Chen Feng became more and more embarrassed. He said, this time I'm here to talk to little brother. This matter may be ruined. Eh? Zhang Xiaohua frowned and asked curiously, what's wrong? Can't you find an alchemy furnace for me to practice? Practice? Chen Feng was also taken aback. Zhang Xiaohua slapped his forehead with a remorseful expression and said in a low voice, Head Manager Chen, please don't blame me. This little brother hid some things from you the last time. Although this little brother has learned alchemy in Rejuvenation Valley, but it's just a simple technique. Alas, forget it. Head manager Chen isn't an outsider, so this little brother will speak frankly. This little brother came to preach the incense religion in order to learn the lost alchemy techniques from the old masters of the pill expanding hall. I originally wanted to bring this matter up after I got familiar with head manager Chen, but since head manager has brought it up, I can only say it in advance. Oh, I see. Chen Feng's face was a little strange. He said with a smile, so little brother has such a plan. Ha, I can understand. However, I'll have to disappoint little brother. Zhang Xiaohua didn't understand. Why? Didn't little brother say some time ago that you can practice alchemy? But our grass division doesn't have an alchemy room. I went to find Wu Dalong of the pill division, but I couldn't find him. I just caught him at dinner the day before yesterday. When he heard what I said, he immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. Only then did I know that the alchemy room of the pill division has rules. Only the disciples of the pill division who have passed the assessment of the hall master have the right to enter. We of the grass division don't have the right to enter at all. Because no one in the grass division knows alchemy, I also overlooked it. I thought that since our brothers of the grass division can sneak in to watch, we can definitely borrow it. But now, it seems that even if we sneak in, it's fine as long as we don't touch those alchemy furnaces. But if we want to secretly practice alchemy, it's absolutely impossible. Ah. So it's like that. Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of surprise. When he went to take a look last night, the disciples of the pill division were guarding the door of the alchemy room. What Chen Fengxiao said was true. Can't we even use it for a while? Zhang Xiaohua said regretfully, then, if I look for Elder Lei and the others to learn alchemy, wouldn't it be? Chen Fengxiao nodded and said, that's right. Our disciples of the grass division can't use the alchemy furnaces of the pill division. Moreover, I'm afraid your wish will be in vain. Wu Dalong can't even lend us his alchemy furnaces, let alone ask their elders to learn alchemy. Then, Zhang Xiaohua wanted to say something, but stopped. Chen Fengxiao immediately understood and waved his hand. Don't think about other things. Since you're a medicine boy sent by the Rejuvenation Valley, you're a member of the grass division alive and dead. There's no way you can go to the pill division. Perhaps being an outer disciple is the place where you have the most hope and the most future. Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of disappointment and loneliness. Chen Fengxiao couldn't bear to see Zhang Xiaohua like this. He reached out and patted Zhang Xiaohua's shoulder, saying, it doesn't matter. Little brother, your skills are very good. If you practice more on this mountain peak, you might really be able to join the outer disciples in a few years. Although he said this, his tone showed that he didn't expect Zhang Xiaohua to have such a day. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and looked at the sun in the sky. He said confidently, yes, I will. There will be such a day. Thank you, Head Chen, for your encouragement. Looking at Zhang Xiaohua's face full of vitality, Chen Fengxiao was suddenly touched. Wasn't he like this when he was young? Sigh, it's a pity, then, Chen Fengxiao said, then little brother, you can cultivate on this mountain peak. I'm really looking forward to another disciple from our grass division who can break into the outer disciples. After saying this, Chen Fengxiao patted Zhang Xiaohua's shoulder again and walked down the mountain. He had already given up on the idea of refining pills. First of all, the pill division couldn't lend their pill room to the grass division. First of all, this Zhang Xiaohua was just a shibei trash. He actually wanted to use the pill division's pill room to practice. Moreover, he wanted to learn alchemy from the old consecrator of the pill division. How could this be possible? At this moment, Chen Fengxiao was secretly laughing at his own absurdity these days. Thinking about it, it was impossible. This Zhang Xiaohua was just a medicine boy sent by the Rejuvenation Valley. If he knew the ancient method of refining pills, why would the Rejuvenation Valley send him to the incense division? Based on Zhang Xiaohua's explanation, the incense division's true purpose was to teach him alchemy. Forget it, forget it. My current situation is not bad. This Ren Xiaoyao can be considered an arhat bestowed by the heavens. Since he can't refine pills, I'll use him for gambling in the future. Learning alchemy? It's better to practice martial arts and earn more pills for myself. Looking at Qin Fengxiao's back as he went down the mountain, Zhang Xiaohua also smiled. During this period of time, he had been tempering the jade box and organizing the herbs, so he had forgotten about his agreement with Qin Fengxiao. Since the pill division did not allow the grass division to have a share of the elixir room, Zhang Xiaohua was even more free. If he really lent the elixir room to the grass division, wouldn't Zhang Xiaohua become Qin Fengxiao's free alchemist? Bai Huan did not stay aside, Zhou Shuming did not peep from a distance, and Zhang Xiaohua did not return to the cave. He walked slowly to a corner of the herb field and carefully looked at the seeds that had been watered with spring water. Wherever his divine sense passed, the primordial qi contained in the seeds seemed to be a little more than the other seeds. It seemed that if he continued to water them, there might be hope for them to germinate. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua now had to consider whether he should continue to water them. If he did not water them, naturally, the primordial qi in the seeds would not increase by itself, and they would not germinate. Of course, the inner core disciples would not know. On the contrary, Zhang Xiaohua himself would not know whether the seeds would really germinate or not. Of course, if he continued to water them, although he could see his own thoughts, it would inevitably attract the attention of others. Of course, was Zhang Xiaohua a person who was afraid of trouble? No, he was not. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua watered the seeds with some water again. The path of the immortal Tao required one to be diligent and diligent. If one were to retreat at the slightest bit of trouble, not to mention the effects, then the cultivation of one's temperament would be inferior. How would one be able to cultivate successfully? Zhang Xiaohua returned to the alchemy room and tidied up the herbs. Then, he placed the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace back onto the platform and ignited the fire. He was about to take out the bone-solidifying pill formula from his money pouch when his divine sense noticed a dark green jade slip in the corner. Chapter 576. The dark green jade slip was obtained by Zhang Xiaohua in the Misty School's library when the restriction was about to collapse. At that time, Zhang Xiaohua did not have the ability to break the restriction on the jade slip, so he casually threw it into his money bag. Beside the jade slip, there was also a pair of red jade bracelets that he obtained when Lu Zhen angrily punished the tyrant. Taking out these 2 things, Zhang Xiaohua carefully looked at them again. The fluctuation on the jade slip was still there, and there was no sign of dissipating, but the fluctuation on the red jade bracelets felt weaker than before. Without thinking too much, Zhang Xiaohua first took the pair of jade bracelets in his hand. Now that Zhang Xiaohua's vision had been broadened, he already knew that this jade bracelet was a kind of magic tool, not a jade slip that recorded the cultivation method like before. However, he still had no clue how to refine it and how to use it. After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua closed his eyes and recalled the contents of Refining the World. Although Refining the World was a method to refine magic tools, it also recorded the refining method of ordinary magic tools. After looking at it for a long time, Zhang Xiaohua already had a general idea in his heart. He had already refined the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace a few days ago. Although he did not use the general method in Refining the World, after all, he had some experience. He carefully recalled the refining steps from beginning to end in his heart. Then he threw the jade bracelet into the air, and his left hand made a seal to hit the jade bracelet. The seal hit the jade bracelet, but the jade bracelet did not seem to have any reaction. Zhang Xiaohua was not in a hurry. He took a deep breath, and then followed the seal in an orderly manner. With the seal in, the dim jade bracelet gradually had some brilliance, just like the previous pill furnace, but the brilliance emitted by the jade bracelet was light red. The refining seal was all hid into the jade bracelet, but the jade bracelet still did not have much brilliance. Zhang Xiaohua smiled. The heaven and earth essence in this jade bracelet was too serious. If it could be restored to its previous state with just a few seals, Zhang Xiaohua would not believe it. So, Zhang Xiaohua again hit the seal from beginning to end. This time, when the last seal was hit, the jade bracelet suddenly emitted a bright red light, and then, a strong suction force was produced. Following the direction of the seal, the true qi in Zhang Xiaohua's body was sucked in. Bad food. Zhang Xiaohua was immediately shocked. He had encountered such a situation before. He did not dare to neglect. He took out the primordial stone from his arms and put it in one hand, and the true qi in the other hand was continuously poured into the jade bracelet. In a short time, the true qi in his body. What magic tool is this jade bracelet? Why does it need so much true qi? So, while absorbing the primordial qi from the primordial stone, he also sent it into the jade bracelet. Alas, Zhang Xiaohua was also bold. He was only in the middle stage of qi refining. Although that little true qi was a lot, if he wanted to drive the magic tool, especially this kind of magic tool that was about to lose its primordial qi, then he must first restore the lack of primordial qi. How could the heaven and earth essence be provided by Zhang Xiaohua now? In this era where the primordial qi was scarce, it was almost impossible for others to do it. It was a good thing that Zhang Xiaohua had primeval stones. Otherwise, he would have been sucked dry by the artifact if he tried to repair it. After an unknown period of time, the jade bracelet gradually floated in the air. The brilliance was no longer brilliant, and it became gentler. The speed of absorbing true qi also slowed down. Until now, Zhang Xiaohua had the leisure to look up at the pair of jade bracelets in the air. This was a pair of red luster jade bracelets engraved with some patterns. There was a faint flow of flames inside the jade bracelets. Looking at it carefully, there was nothing special about it. At this time, the primordial qi fluctuation on the jade bracelet was also extremely strong. Then, the jade bracelet stopped absorbing Zhang Xiaohua's true qi, and a fluctuation was transmitted into Zhang Xiaohua's mind. Zhang Xiaohua read the fluctuation and was overjoyed. He did not waste so much true qi. This fluctuation was the method to control the jade bracelet. It turned out that the name of this jade bracelet was Dragon Binding Bracelet. Just from the name, it could even bind a dragon. Zhang Xiaohua carefully studied the method to control it, and his heart gradually became more confident. With a wave of his hand, the floating, dragon-binding bracelet, that had returned to its original state fell into his hand. Zhang Xiaohua fondled it lovingly for a while, and then kept it in his money bag. He wanted to try out the power of the dragon-binding bracelet, now, but the true qi in his body was already empty. How could he use it? Moreover, the time was already late, and he still had his daily routine to do. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohua finished his work as a grass sect disciple and released his divine sense. Looking carefully, he actually did not find Zhou Shuming, who had been spying on him. This guy hasn't been around for a few days. Did he catch some illness? For sure. The wind on this mountain is strong, and he even climbed so high. How could he stand it? Ha ha ha. As Zhang Xiaohua thought, he escaped to a place where there was no one. After confirming that there was no one around, Zhang Xiaohua took out the pair of jade bracelets from his arms. His left hand made a gesture and threw the jade bracelets into the air. The jade bracelets expanded with the wind, and in an instant, they were 3 feet long. Zhang Xiaohua cast the spell and pointed his finger at a towering mountain rock in the distance. The jade bracelets followed the direction of Zhang Xiaohua's finger and flew over with a whoosh. In an instant, they covered the mountain rock from top to bottom. Then, Zhang Xiaohua began to make another gesture to activate the other functions of the jade bracelets. However, just as the gesture was made, Zhang Xiaohua felt that the true qi in his body was sucked dry. Moreover, the gesture was still not completed. What kind of gesture is this? It actually requires so much true qi. Zhang Xiaohua did not dare to use it again. He shook his hand and stopped the gesture midway. Fortunately, there were no signs of true qi backfiring. Looking at the 2 jade bracelets on the mountain rock, Zhang Xiaohua shook his head. Sigh, it wasn't easy to get a more advanced item, but I can't use it. This is really annoying. With a sigh, Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand. The jade bracelets flew back from the mountain rock and shrunk back to their original size. Zhang Xiaohua reached out to catch them and put them into his arms. At this moment, the corner of Zhang Xiaohua's eyes twitched. He immediately released his divine sense. On the mountain road, a thin and tall figure was using Qing Gong to climb up. Wasn't that the stalker Zhou Shuming who hadn't been seen for the past few days? When did this guy change from being in the dark to being in the open? Zhang Xiaohua was very surprised. He then escaped underground and rushed to a corner of the medicine field before Zhou Shuming. When Zhou Shuming reached the top of Tianmu Peak, he saw Zhang Xiaohua standing on the ridge of the medicine field. It was the place where she used to work. Naturally, he did not suspect her. Before he reached her, he smiled and said, "Junior brother Ren, junior brother Ren." Zhang Xiaohua pretended to be surprised. He turned his head and said, "Oh, so it's senior brother Zhou. I haven't seen you for a long time. Why did you suddenly come to our Tianmu Peak today?" At this moment, Bai Huan, who was lazing around in the small house, heard the call and walked out. She smiled charmingly and said, "Senior brother Zhou, what a rare guest." Zhou Shuming cupped his hands and said, "Ever since I lost to junior brother Ren, I've been facing the wall and thinking hard about why I lost to him. However, I haven't found an answer. Today, seeing junior brother cultivate so hard, as your senior brother, I'm really ashamed. I accept my loss wholeheartedly." Zhang Xiaohua thought to herself, but said, "Senior brother Zhou is too polite. I'm just used to working. If I don't work for a day, my hands and feet will itch, so." Zhou Shuming waved his hand and said, "Junior brother Ren, don't mention it. I used to be born with a hard life. It's just that I've enjoyed too much now, so I've regressed in martial arts." After he finished speaking, he turned to Bai Huan and said, "Junior brother Bai, I have something to ask junior brother Ren." Do you think, when Bai Huan heard this, she immediately pointed to a medicine field in the distance and said, "Senior brother Zhou, you can talk to junior brother Ren. There's a medicine field over there that hasn't been watered yet. I'll go there now. You guys can talk." After she finished speaking, she winked at Zhang Xiaohua and walked away quickly. Zhang Xiaohua looked at Bai Huan's eyes and couldn't figure out what she meant by that. She could only turn to Zhou Shuming and ask, "Senior brother Zhou, is there something urgent that you have to trouble you to go to the peak in person?" Zhou Shuming looked around. There was no one else, but he was still worried. He pointed to a cliff and said, "Junior brother Ren, let's talk over there." After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Zhang Xiaohua to answer and walked over first. Zhang Xiaohua didn't hesitate and followed behind him. When they reached the edge of the cliff, Zhou Shuming thought for a moment and said, "Junior brother Ren, I'm here on behalf of our pill department's Wu Dalong to say a few words to you. I hope you can seriously consider it." Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Puzzled, she asked, "Since Wu Dalong has something to do, why didn't he come up himself?" This matter is a little complicated, so it's inconvenient for Dalong to come. However, Dalong hopes that only you and I will know about this matter. Don't let a fourth person know. What's the matter? Why is it so mysterious? Zhang Xiaohua was very surprised. It's not a big deal. Maybe it's a good thing for you. As long as you agree, I'll tell you. Well, I won't tell anyone about this today. Senior brother Zhou, please tell me. Zhou Shuming nodded and said, "Okay, since junior brother Ren has agreed, I'll get straight to the point. Junior brother Ren, do you want to learn the pill department's alchemy technique?" How does senior brother Zhou know? Don't ask too much about this. I'm just asking you according to Dalong's original words. You just need to answer. Zhang Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, "Yes, but I wonder if Dalong has a way to get the pill department's high priest to teach me the alchemy technique?" "Okay, It's just as Dalong expected. Dalong wants me to ask you again. If you learn the alchemy technique, are you willing to pay the price? Price? Zhang Xiaohua was curious. What exactly is the price? Zhou Shuming chuckled and said, it's very simple, it's your 500 taels of gold. As long as you take out 500 taels of gold, your wish to learn alchemy will be fulfilled. Chapter 577. 500 taels of gold, can make the old consecrator of the pill department teach me alchemy? Zhang Xiaohua opened her mouth wide in disbelief. Zhou Shuming smiled and said, that's right. As long as you take out the 500 taels of gold leaves, you'll get what you want. But Zhang Xiaohua hesitated and said, isn't it the rule of our pill expanding hall that the grass department disciples can't come into contact with the pill room? How can they teach alchemy? Zhou Shuming snorted and said, rules are set by people. Since ancient times, there has been an example of doctors can't be punished. This rule can restrict you and me, but it can't restrict others. Others? Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, who is others? Wu Dalong. Zhou Shuming knew he had blurted out and hurriedly said, don't ask who it is. Just tell me if you agree. Zhang Xiaohua touched her chin and said, but, how do you know I want to make alchemy? And learn alchemy from the old consecrator? Zhou Shuming said angrily, didn't I say it was Wu Dalong's order? Alas, to tell you the truth, your headmaster Chen of the grass department has been on Tianmu Peak for decades and he has never asked Wu Dalong to lend him the pill room. He has always taken the pills. Now that you've come, he immediately asked Wu Dalong to lend him the pill room and asked the old consecrator about alchemy. Also, you've collected a lot of medicinal herbs. How can our Dalong not know you want to learn alchemy? Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, Headmaster Chen is a little impatient. I'm just curious about the alchemy of our pill expanding hall and want to learn. Halfway through, she suddenly changed her words, can Wu Dalong ask the old consecrator to teach me alchemy? Dalong can't, but... Zhou Shuming blurted out carelessly, but he immediately understood and said, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. Junior brother Ren, don't try to sound me out. I really don't know anything. You just have to tell me if it's okay or not. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head and said, I am sorry to disappoint Wu Dalong. How can Xiaoti's gold leaf be worth 500 taels? 200 taels was already not bad. Of course, telling senior marshal brother Ching 500 taels was just to extort him. Senior marshal brother Zhou, where are you going to get 300 gold taels from? We don't even have pills of the same value. We only have the herbs in the hut on the mountainside. What? No more than 500 taels. Zhou Shuming looked at Zhang Xiaohua in disbelief. Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, that golden leaf was only given to me by Rejuvenation Valley. Do you think I'm an important person? They gave me 500 taels of gold all at once. I'm already burning incense to be able to get 200 taels. This. Zhou Shuming sucked in a breath. He was a little embarrassed. After thinking for a while, he asked, how about this, junior brother Ren, I've been very thoughtful as your messenger. What if you give these 200 taels of gold to Dalong and ask him to find you a consecrator to teach you about medicinal pills? What do you think? Why do I need your consecrator to teach me alchemy? I just want Headmaster Chen to find a place to refine pills. I've never thought of learning alchemy from the old consecrator. Moreover, I've already found a pill room and a magical pill furnace. Why should I dawdle with you? Zhang Xiaohua thought to herself. She then cupped her hands and said, Senior Marshal Brother Zhou, please report back to Wu Dalong and thank him for his kindness. However, I know my own aptitude. Even in Rejuvenation Valley, I couldn't learn any alchemy skills, let alone the consecrators of our pill expanding hall who have godlike alchemy skills. I don't dare to have extravagant hopes. Zhou Shuming obviously didn't expect Zhang Xiaohua to refuse. He asked, Junior brother Ren, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You've really decided? Don't regret it in the future. I've decided. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, I don't have any lofty ambitions since I was a child. I only hope to be able to farm and practice martial arts. That's the best life for me. Well, since junior brother Ren has made a choice, I'll report back to Dalong. Zhou Shuming sighed and turned to leave with his lightness skill. In the distance, Bai Huan hid behind a tree and watched quietly. After Zhou Shuming left, she quickly walked forward and asked, Junior brother Ren, why did senior martial brother Zhou look for you? Zhang Xiaohua looked at Bai Huan with a faint smile and said, It's nothing. Wu Dalong of the pill department wants me to join him because he sees that I'm good at martial arts. Join him? Bai Huan didn't understand for a moment. He wants me to be a disciple of the pill department? Zhang Xiaohua said grumpily. Humph, Bai Huan curled her lips and said disdainfully, how is that possible? Although Wu Dalong is the head of the pill department of Tianmu Peak, he doesn't have any authority to transfer you from the grass department to the pill department. Only the 2 hall masters of our pill repository hall can do this. Don't tease me. The 2 hall masters. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned for a moment, but he immediately understood something. He snorted from his nose, the 2 hall masters' appetites are not small, and their hands are also not short. Appetites? Bai Huan was puzzled. How can our hall master and deputy hall master Su take a fancy to a nobody like you? Tell me, why did senior martial brother Zhou look for you? Alas, what else can it be? It's about the next gambling fight, eh? The next gambling fight, what's the matter? Bai Huan's eyes immediately lit up. The time of the next gambling fight hasn't been set. Senior martial brother Zhou just wants me to be merciful if I meet him at that time. Pfft, Bai Huan couldn't help laughing. Junior brother Ren, you're so funny. Senior martial brother Zhou is the head of the 10 great Vajras, and he wants you to be merciful. Please, don't tell such a low-level lie, okay? Forget it. Look, I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe me. Then why are you still listening? Zhang Xiaohua was a little displeased and turned to leave. Junior brother Ren. Bai Huan raised her hand and wanted to stop Zhang Xiaohua, but then she thought, alas, Headmaster Chen just wants me to keep an eye on him and tell him whatever he says. Why should I make him unhappy? I still have to rely on him to make progress in the gambling fight in the future. After that, Bai Huan didn't follow Zhang Xiaohua. She walked to a medicinal field and didn't mention weeding and watering. Zhang Xiaohua saw that Bai Huan didn't ask shamelessly and relaxed. He didn't want everyone to know that he wanted to refine pills and learn alchemy from the consecrated elders of the pill division. Therefore, he walked into the cave and entered the pill room. Zhou Shuming returned to the mountainside and told Wu Zhouxiu what Zhang Xiaohua said. What? He's actually not willing? Wu Zhouxiu was also a little surprised. Then, he snorted and said, It's really hard to be a good person these days. If it weren't for what you said, this Ren Xiaoyao can live alone in the cave and cultivate his internal strength. I think he's a promising talent. I wouldn't be bothered to find a consecrated elder to teach him alchemy. He's just an ordinary disciple of the grass division. They can easily destroy him. Speaking of this, he stopped abruptly and said to Zhou Shuming with a smile, Well, junior brother Zhou, you've worked hard. Just tell him what I said. If he's not willing, then let him be. It seems that I really care about his golden leaves. By the way, keep a close eye on this Ren Xiaoyao in the future. If there's anything, report back as soon as possible. Okay, don't worry. I'll definitely keep a close eye on him. In fact, he spends most of the day in the cave. I can't see him clearly and I don't know what he's doing. I know about that cave. I've occasionally been there before. It's just a small cave. Besides refining his internal strength, can he also refine pills? If he's in the cave, let him stay there. Just keep a close eye on his tracks when he comes out. Zhou Shuming saluted and came out, then went to keep a lookout. Wu Zhoushu sat in a chair and frowned slightly. This young man is still young. He can't tell what's important and what's important. I've already made Zhou Shuming speak so clearly. Don't you know what I'm hinting at? He told me to hint to you to send the golden leaves over. I even added a condition to let you learn how to refine pills. I've already done my duty. If you don't appreciate it, then I have nothing to say. Fine, since you're a disciple of the grass sect, I'll just tell you what I said. I can't do anything else. After thinking, he shouted, "Third Mo." A disciple answered and came in, bowing to salute. Wu Zhoushu walked in front of him and whispered a few words. That's how it is. You go and report to Vice Hall Leader Su. Even if Ren Xiaoyao is a member of the grass sect, I can only reveal his intentions to him. Ren Xiaoyao actually dares to not put me in his eyes. I don't have any good ideas, so I'll have to ask him to make a decision. The disciple listened carefully, then turned and left the hall. Behind him, Wu Zhoushu still shook his head slightly, leaving aside the fact that Wu Zhoushu of the Pill sect had designs on Zhang Xiaohua's golden leaves. In the pill room on Tianmu Peak, Zhang Xiaohua was holding the green jade slip, thinking of a way to break the seal. This jade slip was not like a magic weapon, it did not need to be refined. Moreover, Zhang Xiaohua had first come into contact with this kind of jade slip, so she was familiar with it. This jade slip was different from others. The seal on it was very exquisite, it could actually isolate Zhang Xiaohua's spiritual sense. It was comparable to refining the world. Of course, it was also because she suffered a great loss from breaking the seal on refining the world that her Dan core in her Naiwan palace was almost damaged. This time, Zhang Xiaohua was unusually cautious. Zhang Xiaohua released her spiritual sense and looked at the seal on her own. She reviewed the seals that she had learned previously, as well as the ways to break the jade slip in refining the world. Then, she threw the jade slip into the air. Following that, her left hand formed a seal and sent the seal into the jade slip. Indeed, after trying a few methods, the seal on the jade slip actually loosened. It was completely different from before when there was no reaction at all. Thus, Zhang Xiaohua did not delay. Her hands formed seals and sent the rest of the seals into the jade slip. Not long after, the seal was completely broken. She did not encounter the situation where her spiritual sense was absorbed. Looking at the green jade slip in the air, it was as green as bamboo after the rain. Zhang Xiaohua did not hesitate to send her spiritual sense into it. When she saw the contents of the jade slip, she could not help but raise her eyebrows in joy. Chapter 578. The words on the jade scroll were, flight technique. It was the flight technique that Zhang Xiaohua had learned during the day and at night. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed as he carefully read the contents of the jade scroll from the beginning. Just as he saw the beginning of the jade scroll, Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Dear readers, what do you think? It turned out that the beginning of the flight technique was the ethereal steps that Peng had given to Zhang Xiaohua when he was at the Misty Mountain Villa. And this ethereal steps was different from the ethereal steps that Zhang Xiaohua had learnt back then. This ethereal steps was only a part of what He Tianshu had taught him previously. It was also the levitation technique that He Tianshu would never be able to learn. Reading up to this point, Zhang Xiaohua began to ponder. This levitation technique is obviously the foundation of the flight technique. The ethereal steps that the Misty Mountain Villa sent over previously must have been a footwork technique that was improved and suitable for martial arts. It wasn't originally recorded in the flight technique. However, I heard that the ethereal steps was divided into 9 levels. I have only learnt 3 levels, but I don't know the other levels. I wonder what is behind this flight technique. Then, Zhang Xiaohua continued to read with great interest. After he had roughly finished reading the entire jade scroll, he understood. The flight technique of the Misty Mountain Villa was divided into 3 levels. They were levitation technique, wind controlling technique, and flight technique. It was a gradual process. Only by learning the first two levels could one finally learn the flight technique and fly freely in the air. The flight technique is divided into 3 levels. The ethereal steps is further divided into 9 levels. The first level of the flight technique is the levitation technique, which corresponds to the levitation technique and qigong of the Misty Mountain Villa's third level. I believe the flight technique and flight technique should correspond to the wind controlling technique and the flight technique. Only, I don't know how the seniors of the Misty Mountain Villa improved it. Could it be that when the Misty Mountain Villa reaches the 9th level of the ethereal steps, one can also fly with the wind controlling technique? Zhang Xiaohua didn't believe it. If O Peng could fly, he would have flown away from Misty Peak long ago. How could he be forced to commit suicide? Alas, Zhang Xiaohua did not realize that O Peng did not have any hope of escaping that day. However, how could the Zhang Xiaohua understand the O Peng of that day? Having obtained the flight technique, Jade Scroll, Zhang Xiaohua was very excited. That's right, back on the deserted island, he had already seen the flight technique in the Fiery Dragon Jinren's Jade Scroll. He also knew that when the Immortal Tao was flourishing, Immortal Tao practitioners used the flight technique to travel everywhere. Very few people used the 5 elements escape technique. Before he obtained this technique, he only knew the levitation technique, which could only be used as a lightness skill. When it came to escape techniques, he could only use the earth escape technique. In the pitch-black underground, he was like a mouse. Ever since he escaped into the mysterious cave under the mountain stream and almost lost his life, Zhang Xiaohua did not want to use the earth escape technique anymore. Unfortunately, he still did not know the flight technique and could only use the earth escape technique. Now that he had finally achieved his long-cherished wish, of course he had to make full use of the earth escape technique. As previously mentioned, the flight technique of the Misty Mountain Villa was divided into 3 levels. Each level was more difficult than the previous one. Although Zhang Xiaohua had already seen the levitation technique recorded in the Jade Scroll and had cultivated it before, the flight technique on the Jade Scroll was much more complicated than the one on the white paper. Zhang Xiaohua had no choice but to carefully ponder over it and cultivate it again. On the White Mountain Peak, in an exquisite little courtyard, Vice Hall Master Su held a short sword in his hand and played with it lovingly. Wasn't this the one that Yang Yao had reluctantly given to him? At first, Vice Hall Master Su didn't pay much attention to the short sword. He only felt that Yang Yao had dared to violate the rules of the Pill Repository Hall and arbitrarily took Zhang Xiaohua, who didn't meet the requirements, into the fragrant cult as a medicine boy. He had no choice but to teach Yang Yao a lesson. Moreover, Yang Yao had always been very close to Sage and had always been indifferent to him. Now that he finally had an opportunity, how could he not take advantage of it? At first, he didn't pay much attention to the short sword. However, after a long time, he discovered that the short sword was abnormally sharp. Even some of the divine weapons he had collected couldn't compare to it. Moreover, the style was simple and the shape was short and small. It was just right for him to hold it in his hand. This Yang Yao, TSK, he actually collected such a good thing from the Rejuvenation Valley. Don't think that only the Hall Master can make decisions in the Pill Repository Hall. Although I can't have the final say, I can also make it so that you don't have the final say. Then, there was a greedy look in his eyes as he muttered to himself, 500 taels of gold leaf. How many years has it been since I've seen it? That golden color is the most beautiful color in this time. At this moment, a disciple walked in and reported, Vice Hall Master Su, Tianmu Peak's Wuzhou Ruin sent a disciple to report again. Tianmu Peak. Wuzhou Ruins. Vice Hall Master Su was stunned. What does he want? Could it be? Vice Hall Master Su revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Let him in quickly. Yes. The disciple was rather surprised to see Vice Hall Master Su so happy. However, when Vice Hall Master Su saw the empty-handed Tian Mu Peak disciple, his expression turned ugly. He frowned inconspicuously and said in a low voice, "Why did Wu Zhou Ruin send you here?" The disciple looked around. Seeing that there was no one else waiting, he softly told him about Zhang Xiaohua's refusal to hand over the gold leaf. Vice Hall Master Su's expression darkened even more. He slammed the table and said angrily, "What is this Wu Zhou Ruins doing? I only asked him to keep an eye on him." Who asked him to speak first? He attracted attention for no reason. What an incompetent guy. Seeing Vice Hall Master Su's anger, the disciple shrunk his neck and did not dare to speak. After a while, Vice Hall Master Su looked at the disciple from the corner of his eyes and said, "What did Wu Zhou Ruin say to that guy who doesn't know what's good for him? Did he mention my name?" This. The disciple was somewhat hesitant. Although what Wu Zhou Ruins did was not a big deal, it was done in secret. He did not intend to let a trusted disciple like him know. However, there was no such thing as a secret in the world. Furthermore, he was Wu Zhou Ruin's trusted disciple. How could he not see or hear things that he should not hear? It was fine if he knew these things, but if he said it, Wu Zhou Ruins might not be happy. Seeing the disciple's hesitation, Vice Hall Master Su grinned. "Could it be that you're Wu Dalong?" The disciple hurriedly bowed and said, "Dalong has always been cautious. This matter was not handled by me, so I am not clear. However, although I did not see it with my own eyes, I more or less know a little." Thus, he told Vice Hall Master Su all that he had seen and guessed. Humph. Vice Hall Master Su was even more furious. He's just Rejuvenation Valley's son-in-law. So arrogant. He thinks that he can climb up the Hall Master and does not respect me. Ha, very good, very good. You can go back. Tell Wu Zhou Ruins to just keep an eye on this guy. There's no need to alert him. I know of his loyalty. How can I do something like taking someone's things for no reason? He did very well. It's to my liking. After the disciple left, Vice Hall Master Su pulled a long face and secretly said, "Ren Xiaoyao ah, Ren Xiaoyao, since you don't want face, then don't blame me for using some tricks. Hee hee, 500 taels of gold leaves are like dung in the incense-spreading cult. Only hall masters like us have some use for them. Don't you know that they are hot to the touch?" At this moment, another disciple hurried in and reported, "Vice Hall Master Su, the Hall Master has an urgent matter." Urgent matter? Vice Hall Master Su was stunned. Did the Hall Master say what it is? I don't know. However, our pill-spreading hall has never had any urgent matters. Since the Hall Master has said so, Vice Hall Master Su should hurry over. You go back first. I will go over immediately. After the disciple walked away, Vice Hall Master Su tidied his clothes and immediately went out. As he walked, he muttered, "Could it be that Ren Xiaoyao complained to the Hall Master? That's impossible." Alas, a typical case of a guilty conscience. Among the 19 peaks of the incense-spreading cult, the highest peak in the middle was the lingering fragrance peak where the inner disciples resided. At this moment, in a secluded small courtyard on the lingering fragrance peak, a beautiful woman sat cross-legged and looked out of the window. Her eyes revealed a trace of confusion. The lingering fragrance peak was taller and more majestic than the other mountain peaks. That turbulent sea of clouds and the white mist that diffused from the mountainside enveloped half of the lingering fragrance peak. The residences of the inner sect disciples were located at the mountainside. Therefore, there were pavilions and terraces, white cranes dancing in the air, and plum deers playing in the air. Coupled with the delicate boys and girls, and the mist that lingered from time to time, the entire lingering fragrance peak was practically a heavenly realm of jade. Although the woman's courtyard was not big, the vegetation was lush and several small houses were scattered in picturesque disorder. In the middle of the courtyard, there was a small pond. From time to time, golden carps would jump out of the water. Coupled with the few lotus leaves and flowers, it was quite interesting. Peacock. A kind voice sounded. The woman was stunned and immediately stood up in surprise. She turned around and said, "Master, you have come out. Your Mortal Heart Sutra has been completed." The confusion in the woman's eyes disappeared and her face revealed a graceful temperament. Wasn't she the outstanding disciple of the incense-spreading cult, Peacock? Following the voice, an old woman in a palace dress floated in. Her hair was white and the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes were not consistent with the delicate skin on her face. She was Peacock's master, Abbess Jingfan. Abbess Jingfan saw Peacock and was also happy. She smiled and said, "It's just a small isolated practice. How can it be as successful as you think? Mortal Heart Sutra, if Mortal Heart Sutra can be completed so easily, then how can it be called the Supreme Sutra that is most likely to connect mortals and heavenly realm?" Peacock smiled and said, "Then Master must have reached a higher level. I have only been out for a few months and Master has already gone into isolated practice. You must have achieved something. Only you have a sweet mouth." Where is Chin Chin? Where did that crazy girl run off to? Master, please don't blame her. Junior sister Chin waited for a few more days and finally couldn't stand the loneliness. She just left yesterday. Who knows which uncle she went to? I will send the boys to look for her. No need to rush, Peacock. Let me see. You have changed a lot after going out. How come? Master has already walked behind you and you still haven't noticed. Is there something on your mind? Chapter 579. Well. Peacock blushed, "I was distracted by some things, it's not what you were thinking." What were you thinking about? Nun Jingfan asked. Master, you're teasing me again. Peacock did not fall for it, her tone was slightly angry. Nun Jingfan laughed, "It's nothing, you're not young anymore, it's normal for you to have some thoughts, there's no need to hide it from me. This trip to Vow City, that's what I wanted as well, why are you so shy?" But. Master, if it's really as you said, then I'll admit it, but. Peacock was embarrassed and confused. After all, Zhang Xiaohua was the son-in-law of the cult of fragrance, he was only a 15-year-old teenager. Seeing Peacock like this, Nun Jingfan did not press the issue, she smiled and said, "All right, if you don't want to talk about it, I won't force you. Just tell me about your trip. You haven't been to Vow Lake for decades, I wonder if there have been any changes." Master. It's not that I don't want to talk about it, it's just that I don't know where to start. Then I'll tell you. After that, Peacock told Nun Jingfan about her trip to Vow City and Rejuvenation Valley. Of course, what she told Nun Jingfan this time was more than what she told Nun Jingfan last time. This extra content, of course, was about Zhang Xiaohua. Nun Jingfan's reaction was similar to Nun Jingyi's, she did not interrupt Peacock in the middle of the story, she nodded and asked, "Your injuries have healed? Come, let me take a look." Peacock's heart warmed, "You're really my master." Even though Nun Jingfan expressed her concern, her first question was about the details of the ambush, and now she's talking about my injuries. Peacock obediently extended her hand, Nun Jingfan placed her finger on Peacock's wrist, she channeled a strand of inner energy into her, circling around her meridians for a while before withdrawing. Nun Jingfan smiled with satisfaction, "Not bad, your inner cultivation has improved in these few months, you haven't slacked off." Peacock lowered her head, "I dare not. Master has always taught me that, cultivation is like sailing against the current, if you don't advance, you'll fall behind, I dare not disobey." Very good. That, minor meridian nourishing pill, is really miraculous. The injuries in your meridians have been completely healed, and it has even expanded slightly. It's greatly beneficial to your future cultivation. Compared to this, those few years of cultivation that you obtained for free are nothing. What? Master, this disciple thought that obtaining 7 years' worth of cultivation was already enough. Who would have thought that this minor meridian nourishing pill would have such an effect? Then wouldn't the real, pulse-soothing pill be even more miraculous? Peacock was very surprised. Sigh, the exact effects of the real, meridian soothing pill are unknown even in the sex records. Who knows what it will be like? Moreover, just this minor meridian nourishing pill is about to go extinct. What a pity. By the way, you said that when you saw this child, you felt like heaven and earth were filling up. That's strange. Even though I didn't make much progress during this seclusion, but I did make some small progress. I managed to catch a glimpse of the realm of immortality, and at the same time, I also saw a corner of the heavenly axiom. Even though it was just a glimpse, but that brief moment was enough to shock me. In front of the immortal heavenly axiom, I'm like an ant. I'm even smaller than an ant. This feeling is very similar to what you encountered. Master, congratulations, Master. You actually managed to catch a glimpse of the heavenly axiom. Could it be that our mortal heart sutra is real? Nonsense. The Abbess Jing Fan scolded Peacock. Of course the mortal heart sutra is real. It's the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors. How could it be fake? But, Peacock argued, the realms in the Heart Sutra are too mystical. In the end, it's all unimaginable martial arts. The Abbess Jing Fan smiled. Am I not walking forward step by step? Do you still have any doubts? I don't dare to have any more doubts. Peacock lowered her head in shame. It's not just you. When I was your age, I was the same. I was young and frivolous. The Abbess Jing Fan now was like a loving mother. She then asked, did Chin Chin see that kid? How did she feel? Peacock shook her head. I purposely let Junior Chin see it, but I didn't tell her beforehand. But looking at Junior Chen's face, she didn't feel anything strange, and, Peacock hesitated, and, I only felt this when I saw him for the first time. When I saw him again, I didn't feel this kind of feeling. Towards the end, her voice was almost inaudible. The Abbess Jing Fan was stunned. She thought for a moment and asked softly, who else did you tell about this? Chin Chin? Or the leader? Peacock was stunned and said shyly, Master, what are you talking about? What's there to talk about? This is the first time I told you. That's good. Abbess Jing Fan nodded and then said seriously, Peacock, although the inner disciples of the fragrant cult are not allowed to marry, but if you want to develop in the cult, for example, to sit in my position, then, you must keep your chastity. The reason why I let you go out this time is to let you see the real Jianghu, then I'll tell you all this later. Who would have thought that you would meet your so-called nemesis in just a few months? Nemesis? Peacock was shocked. Master, you're saying that this Ren Xiaoyao actually, the Abbess Jing Fan nodded, I don't have any experience in this area, but from what you said, it seems to be the same as when your senior Ru Ping met O Peng from the Misty School. Back then, your master Jing Yi came to me a few times, and I remember it very well. Senior Ru Ping. Peacock was even more surprised. You mean Yang Ru Ping from the Misty School, right? That's right. Sigh, this child. She went to the Sorrowless Lake and met her nemesis. She couldn't forget him after returning to Lingering Fragrance Peak, just like what you said, she only had O Peng in her heart. Without O Peng, the world would collapse. Your senior Ru Ping couldn't stand him, so she reluctantly agreed. Although O Peng did not disappoint and became the leader of the Misty School, but, sigh, it's fate that makes fools of people, love hurts. The Abbess Jing Fan sighed again and again. She then looked at Peacock lovingly, Peacock, your potential has long surpassed Ru Ping's, your future is limitless. I hope you can consider it carefully, and don't. Before she could finish, Peacock hurriedly said, Master, look at what you're saying, I feel like what you said, it's not quite the same as what Senior Ru Ping said, that's right, Yang Ru Ping and O Peng fell in love at first sight, both of them willing. Yang Ruping's love for O Peng was unforgettable, but what about Peacock? She really didn't know if she had such feelings for a 15-year-old, Rejuvenation Valley's future son-in-law, and her master had already pinned such a big label on her. Of course she was anxious. The Abbess Jing Fan looked at Peacock as if she was her own beloved daughter, and stopped Peacock from arguing. Peacock, don't be hasty. I'm saying this for your own good, but it's just my own wishful thinking. I'm not an inflexible person. Your senior Ru Ping was able to let go of Ru Ping years ago. How can I not? To be honest, I was the one who advised your senior Ru Ping. How can I not understand these things now? But this Ren. Ren what? Ren Xiaoyao. Peacock said exasperatedly. Ren Xiaoyao, he's no better than O Peng, he's just a normal disciple of the Pill Expanding Hall. The difference between you and him is too big, and his martial arts is terrible. I don't think he's a good match for you. Master. Peacock was speechless. This was just the beginning, and she was already talking about this? The Abbess Jing Fan ignored her and continued, of course, Peacock, if you really like him, it doesn't matter if he's Rejuvenation Valley's future son-in-law. You didn't have to go through the ceremony, and you don't have to care if he's just a normal disciple. I'll make the decision for you. Master. Peacock was very touched. She held the Abbess Jing Fan's hand and said, it's just. Master, thank you for your concern, but it doesn't seem like what you think. How is it not what I think? I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice, how can I not know? The Abbess Jing Fan was very sure. Peacock was even more anxious. Master, I really. Forget it, I'll send someone to call Ren Xiaoyao over tomorrow, you can see for yourself. Peacock was a little peeved. Alright, the Abbess Jing Fan smiled. I'm also curious to see what kind of person this Ren Xiaoyao is, to be able to coax the daughter of Rejuvenation Valley, and even our proud Peacock. Oh, forget it, the Abbess Jing Fan seemed to have thought of something. Let's talk about this later. Ever since your martial aunt Jing Xian mysteriously passed away, our lingering fragrance peak has been in a state of panic and suspicion. Adding your incident out of the blue, and involving someone outside of the sect, it's inevitable that it'll attract other people's attention. It won't do any good to you, Ren Xiaoyao, Tuodan Hall, or Rejuvenation Valley. Let's talk about this in a few years. The kid is still young anyway, let's just keep him for now. What the? Peacock almost fell over. This was a human, not a fish. But speaking of the deceased martial aunt Jing Xian, Peacock's face was filled with sadness. Yes, Master, martial aunt Jing Xian's martial arts were higher than yours. Why did she pass away so mysteriously? She didn't take in any disciples. Oh, right, Master, it seems that the girls martial aunt Jing Xian brought back from the outside have been accepted into the inner sect? The Abbess Jing Fan sighed. Yes, when your martial aunt passed away, her face was very peaceful, as if she knew who did it, but she didn't say anything. Sigh, it's because of this that lingering fragrance peak is filled with suspicion. The girls she brought back from the outside aren't very talented. Your martial aunt didn't manage to take them in when she was alive. It's even more difficult after her death. Chapter 580. I know about this. Peacock nodded. I haven't seen that child before, but I heard that she was very stubborn. After martial aunt Jing Xian passed away, there was no one to take charge of Xian Bamboo Yard. That child might not have been taken in as martial aunt Jing Xian's disciple. There weren't many servants in Xian Bamboo Yard, but they all rolled their eyes at that child. Sigh, I heard from Chen Chen that even martial aunt Jing Xian knew about this, but that child just clenched her teeth and didn't say anything. She just stood by martial aunt Jing Xian's coffin for 7 days and 7 nights. She's still a child. Nun Jing Fan said. That little girl is already 16, she's only a few years younger than you. Ha, you're right, but the first time I saw her was 4 or 5 years ago. She was still a little girl. In the blink of an eye, she's already 16, time flies. Hearing the disappointment in Peacock's voice, Nun Jing Fan nodded in her heart. The inner disciples of lingering fragrance peak were all blessed by the heavens. They had always stayed away from the mortal world and didn't have much contact with worldly affairs. Although they could improve their martial arts, once they reached a certain level, they would fall into a bottleneck. Without experiencing the fickleness of the world and the ways of the world, they wouldn't be able to enter a more profound realm. This bottleneck had stopped countless geniuses in the past thousands of years. As Abbess Jingfan's prized disciple, Peacock could be considered one of the top figures in Lingering Fragrance Peak. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been the one responsible for this trip to Carefree City. Today, to be able to express the sentiment of, "time is like lightning," to a girl whom she had not interacted much with, it already showed that she had some understanding of the true meaning of life. Whether it was successful or not, her relationship with the so-called nemesis of life would be greatly beneficial for Peacock's cultivation. Ren Xiaoyao, in Nun Jingfan's eyes, was just a whetstone for Peacock's mortal mantra. Immediately after, Jingfan Shirtai smiled and said, "Let's not talk about that girl. Since she has already entered the inner sect, even if she doesn't have your martial uncle Jing Xian's personal guidance, she may not have the opportunity to improve her martial arts, but with her status, on this Lingering Fragrance Peak, no one will bully her." Peacock also nodded slightly. While they were talking, there was a rush of footsteps. Abbess Jingfan did not need to turn around to know who it was. Sure enough, there was a cry of surprise. "Master, you've come out." Was it not Qin Chen's voice? Abbess Jingfan stopped talking to Peacock. She turned around and said, "Sai, that's right. I just came out, but I only see one disciple here, Master." Chen used her Qin Gong and came to Master Jingfan's side. She said in a sweet voice, "From what you're saying, it seems that I don't care about you at all. I'm just a little bored and went to Master Qingling's place to take a look. If you don't believe me, you can ask senior sister. I've been waiting here for a long time." After she finished speaking, she grabbed Master Jingfan's arm and shook it. She did not have the kind of temperament that Zhang Xiaohua had when they first met. Master Jingfan was also used to this kind of coquettish behavior. She said with a helpless face, "I haven't finished my sentence and you're already waiting for me to say so much. What else do you want me to say?" Although her face was helpless, her eyes were also filled with doting. She had watched her two disciples grow up since they were young. She had never been separated from them for so long. Although she knew that there was nothing wrong with her little disciple, she still looked at her face and carefully observed her growth in the past few months. "Look at what you're saying." Chen chuckled and said, "I don't dare to talk back to Master. One sentence from Master is worth 10,000 sentences. Oh, right, I forgot to congratulate Master. Congratulations Master, your Mortal Heart Sutra must have reached the peak of perfection. You've created a new situation that hasn't been seen in 10,000 years in the fragrance cult." Little talker. Abbess Jingfan scolded and said, "Master only went into a small retreat. How can it reach the peak of perfection like you said? You're used to being flattered outside. Are you trying to fool me when you come back?" Although it was a scolding, there was a slight pride in Abbess Jingfan's eyes. Chen raised her eyes and looked at Peacock who was looking at her calmly. She smiled and said, "Senior sister just returned to Lingxiang Peak and her power has increased greatly. Master's retreat for several months must have also improved greatly. This is needless to say." "This? What kind of logic is this?" Abbess Jingfan smiled bitterly and then said, "Is it because you're jealous of your senior sister's opportunity?" Chen pursed her lips and said, "That's right. Master, please be the judge." Senior sister went to Don't Worry City and encountered many stories along the way. She was even intercepted. Although she was injured, the minor nourishing meridian pill had replenished her strength for at least 5 years. "Look at your disciple, I went to that godforsaken place and there was nothing interesting along the way." Before Chen finished speaking, Abbess Jingfan shook her head and said, "Don't say any more. Chen, have you forgotten what your sect master said before? In addition to hard work, the path of cultivation also emphasizes on aptitude and opportunity. If the opportunity is not there, no matter how hard you work, no matter how good your aptitude is, no matter how good your aptitude is, it will not be enough. Chen thought about it and said, Master, so senior sister went to Don't Worry City and encountered the Tenryu's sex obstruction. Then she was seriously injured and got the elixir to increase her power. This is her opportunity. Abbess Jing Fan nodded seriously and said, yes, it is. Chen rolled his eyes and said, then Ren Xiaoyao from the Rejuvenation Valley met Nie Qianyu and sent her to the Rejuvenation Valley. Then they held a martial arts competition to find a spouse. Then he came to the fragrance cult with the medicine boy and became an outer disciple of the fragrance cult. Is that also his opportunity? Hearing Chen mention Zhang Xiaohua, Abbess Jing Fan frowned slightly and said, I just heard your senior sister mention this Ren Xiaoyao. Why do you suddenly mention him? Do you feel that he is different from ordinary people? Different from ordinary people? Chen was stunned and said confusedly, no. I just feel that he is tall and there is nothing strange about it. Don't we also have a lot of young inner sect disciples who look very mature? Compared to them, this Ren Xiaoyao is too ordinary. Jing Fan Nun frowned slightly and said, you're right. If Ren Xiaoyao hadn't met the daughter of the Rejuvenation Valley's Valley Master and reached out to save her, this wouldn't have happened. He definitely wouldn't have had the opportunity to enter our fragrant religion. This is the so-called opportunity. Alas. Chen sighed deeply and looked at Peacock deeply. Abbess Jing Fan's heart trembled and she quickly asked, what's wrong? Unexpectedly, Chen said bitterly, your disciple's martial arts cultivation can't catch up with senior sisters. Now, I can't even see her back. How can your disciple not sigh? You. Abbess Jing Fan did not know whether to laugh or cry, but she was relieved. Peacock went out and provoked this unknown Ren Xiaoyao. If Chen was also involved with them, then it would be even more chaotic. It was fine as long as it was not these. At this time, Peacock, who had been silent all this time, smiled and said, Junior sister is wrong. Didn't the head of the sect always say that the most important thing in the path of cultivation is to take one step at a time? Only what you can achieve through cultivation is your true power. All shortcuts are not the right path. The power I have gained these few years is not necessarily a blessing or a curse. Chen did not agree and said, even so, seeing senior sister gain so many years of power for free, how can I not be envious? Moreover, since it is not a blessing to gain power for free, why do so many disciples break their heads every time to obtain the right to enter the Valley Orchid Evening Refining? Isn't it because they want to find rare treasures and refine them into elixirs to increase their power? Speaking of this, she seemed to have realized something and slapped her forehead and said, Oh, Master, I am happy to see you, but I forgot. Abbess Jing Fan was stunned and asked with a smile, what's wrong? Do you want to ask Master for the chance to enter the Valley Orchid Evening Refining? Speaking of this, she turned to look at Peacock and said, your senior sister gained so many years of power for free, and when she went to Don't Worry City, her state of mind was not stable. She can't go to the Valley Orchid Evening Refining in a few months. She needs to stabilize her state of mind first and untie the knot in her heart. Moreover, she has already been there last time, she will not fight with you. Unstable state of mind? Not in her heart. Chen was confused and asked Peacock, Senior sister, what is going on? Why didn't I hear you mention it? Could it be that Dao Gang is sad? Peacock blushed and mumbled, not knowing how to explain. Then Chen said loudly, Oh, Master, you are interrupting again, listen to me first. After that, without waiting for Abbess Jing Fan and Peacock's reaction, he continued, just now when I went to Master's Aunt Qingling's place, I met Master's uncle who sent someone to find her. He said that the disciples who were patrolling the mountain found that the prohibition of the Valley Orchid Evening Refining had loosened, similar to the initial opening of the Valley Orchid Evening Refining, so he gathered all the elders and hall masters to discuss. Because Master is in seclusion, he did not send anyone. Before Master left, she told me to come back, and if Master is able to come out in the near future, I would like to invite Master to Lingxiang Palace to discuss the matter of the Valley Orchid evening refining. Chen Chen said all this in one breath and did not breathe in the middle. Fortunately, he had some success in the Mortal Heart Sutra, so he was not out of breath and his face was not red. After she finished, he did not speak again. Abbess Jing Fan and Peacock also did not speak. For a moment, the whole room was unusually quiet. Chen Chen looked at the two of them and said curiously, "Master, senior sister, I am done." When Peacock heard this, she smiled and said, "Ha, so junior sister is done. Then we can talk." "Ha," Chen Chen laughed and said, "Of course." Abbess Jing Fan also smiled and said, "Then we will talk." Then, he looked at Peacock and frowned slightly and said, "The Valley Orchid evening refining opens every 5 years and the prohibition has been fixed for hundreds of years. There are still a few more months before it opens. Could it be that there have been new changes like the prohibition at Jinghai Lake?" Chapter 581. Although the Twilight Orchid refinement is not as grand as the refining of lingering fragrance, it is still held once every 5 years. If there is a chance, it is still good to go in and experience it. Hearing this, Chen Chen could not help but look eager to give it a try. Peacock's face was expressionless, but there was obvious envy in her eyes. She said gloomily, "The refining of lingering fragrance is held every year, it is nothing new. This time, the disciples have been talking about the Twilight Orchid refinement for a long time. I want to go in and take a look." When Chen Chen heard this, he shouted, "Senior sister, don't fight with me. You've gotten so many benefits for no reason. Moreover, you've gotten an excellent ranking in the refining of lingering fragrance every year. The headmaster has praised you a lot and gave you a lot of medicinal pills and cultivation methods." Peacock said unhappily, "The elixirs are useful, but didn't I show you the skills too? You also practice a lot." "Hee, who asked us to be senior sister? If you don't let me see it, who else can see it?" Chen Chen blinked his eyes and said, shamelessly, Forget it, forget it. Master didn't ask me to go anyway, what are you afraid of? I won't fight with you." Although the Twilight Orchid refinement is not too dangerous, there are still many wild beasts inside. There are also many long-lived wild beasts. Although I didn't encounter any wild beasts the last time I went in, it doesn't mean that there are no problems inside. You have to be careful. If others are not afraid, why should I be? It's just a wild beast. Don't you think so, Master? Master Jing Fan shook her head. "Chen Chen, don't be careless. The wild beasts in the valley are not like the ones you usually see. Not only are there many types, but they are also very fierce. Many of the wild beasts inside have lived for who knows how many years and are human-like. Every time the Twilight Orchid refinement, there are many casualties." Chen Chen said disdainfully, "They are all outer disciples and disciples of other halls. How many inner disciples are injured?" Seeing that Chen Chen did not mind, Nun Jingfan did not say much. In the eyes of the inner disciples, Twilight Orchid refinement was a simple experience. The fragrant religion was not the same as other sects in Jianghu. They had an immortal array to protect their foundation. Of course, with this array, there were gains and losses. The gains were needless to say. The array had protected the fragrant religion for 10,000 years. But what about the losses? It was also obvious that the inner sect disciples did not have enough experience roaming the Jianghu. Although roaming the Jianghu every 4 years was an opportunity, not every disciple had the opportunity to do so. Therefore, the Orchid Valley that was opened every 5 years was also a place for them to gain experience. Roaming the Jianghu might allow them to gain experience in the ways of the world. As for Twilight Orchid refinement, it could only be used to gain experience in martial arts and survive in the wild. As for comparing notes in martial arts, it was better to mention the Twilight Orchid refinement. This was a grand event that the fragrant religion held every year to assess the martial arts of the inner and outer disciples. The winners would receive corresponding rewards and promotion. This was what Nun Jingfan should be worried about. Seeing that her master did not say anything more, Peacock smiled and said, "Master, since you have already come out of seclusion, the head of the sect must be concerned. There may be many things that need to be discussed in this Orchid Valley. You should also be going to the Palace of Fragrant Religion. If you delay the sect's important matters because of this disciple, we can't afford to take responsibility." Ha! Nun Jingfan laughed and shook her head. She stood up and said, "Master hasn't seen you for several months and wanted to talk more with you. Looking at you, Sai, as the saying goes, the son has grown up and can't be controlled by his mother. It's really not bad." Peacock said shyly, "Master, this disciple just saw that you weren't in a hurry to go to the Palace of Fragrant Religion and kindly reminded you." "What do you mean by that?" Chen Chen did not let go of the arm that was hugging Nun Jingfan and said, "That's right, Master." "Then why don't you stay a little longer?" Nun Jingfan pulled her arm away and said, "Seeing that you are safe and sound, Master is relieved. The sect's matters are not big or small, they all need to be taken seriously. Since I have already come out of seclusion, I naturally need to participate. Although it's a little late, I still have to go." Peacock, go back to the quiet room to stabilize your state. Chen Chen, make some preparations. The prohibition of Orchid Valley has loosened, we may be entering the valley soon. Seeing that their master was speaking seriously, the two of them did not dare to delay. They both stood still and solemnly said yes. After Nun Jingfan left, Chen Chen pulled Peacock again and asked curiously, "Senior, what did Master say to you when she came out of seclusion? Why did Master have such a big reaction when I mentioned that Ren Xiaoyao? She gave me a fright just now." Peacock shook her head as if nothing had happened. "How would I know the reason? When you came back, Master had just come out of seclusion. I had just finished talking about the matter of going to Carefree City and Master had just seen my injuries." That's strange." Chen Chen was even more puzzled. He raised his head and asked, "Oh right, Senior, it's been more than 10 days since we came back to Incense Order. I wonder how that Ren Xiaoyao is doing. Is he like the other disciples of Pill Digging Hall, planting herbs in a daze?" Hearing this, Peacock could not help but laugh and said, "How come I've never seen him in a daze? If he's really like that, what's so fun about him? Why are you still thinking about him?" Speaking of this, she felt guilty for no reason. Chen Chen did not care at all and said, "This kid's looks are average and his martial arts are poor. However, he's not short and doesn't seem to have any strong points. But his eloquence is not bad. When there's time, why don't we drag him to Lingxiang Peak and tell him stories to us?" Peacock was speechless and scolded, "Do you think Lingxiang Peak is easy? He's just a little medicine boy of Pill Digging Hall, how can he come to Lingxiang Peak? And tell you stories? I'm just saying. Chen Chen stuck out his tongue. Then, he turned to look out of the window and stretched, saying, "The days at Lingxiang Peak are really boring. If only we could be like Ren Xiaoyao said, how good would it be to be able to get rid of evil in the Jianghu?" Peacock shook her head and said, "If that kind of life is good, why would Ren Xiaoyao need to painstakingly design and join our incense order? Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. You should also prepare, I'm going to the quiet room to practice." Sigh, those who prepare, those who practice in seclusion, those who are bored continue to be bored, Chen Chen muttered, those who are farming are still farming. Peacock who was walking past felt her heart skip a beat and thought, farming? Isn't that Ren Xiaoyao? Why did Chen Chen mention this for no reason? Could it be? Then, she felt a chill in her heart, could it be that Chen Chen also has feelings for this Ren Xiaoyao? No way, didn't Master say that he's my nemesis? Peacock's face heated up as she thought, could it be that what Master said was true? I actually have feelings for a young man I've never met. But, This doesn't seem to be the feeling described in the book, this. What should I do? Sigh, not to mention Peacock's chaotic thoughts and Chen Chen's muttering, just the fact that Zhang Xiaohua, who was comprehending the Imperial Wind technique on Tianmu Peak, was sneezing non-stop. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua had already finished comprehending the levitation technique. He had also patched up the previous incomplete version of the levitation technique and started cultivating again. Although the levitation technique in the ethereal steps that Zhang Qingyue had given to Zhang Xiaohua a few years ago was lacking, the main framework was still there. It was just that when he was recording it, many details were omitted. Many things that were not easy to record with pen and ink were omitted. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua was revising the general cultivation and could easily do it. Therefore, it did not take long for him to start comprehending and practicing the Imperial Wind technique. Misty School's flight technique was divided into 3 steps. The first step was the levitation technique, which was to lift the body off the ground and float in the air, using external objects to move. This was exactly what martial arts Qinggong could mimic. The second step was to float in the air without using any external objects. Instead, he controlled the wind outside to move his body. Of course, the third step was to be able to fly in the air. This was not something Zhang Xiaohua could do. What he had comprehended now was how to control the wind. Speaking of controlling the wind, during the era of immortality, it was not too difficult. It was one of the most basic abilities of all immortal cultivators. At this time, on Tianmu Peak, although the vitality of heaven and earth was much more than outside, the amount that Zhang Xiaohua could use was very little. Moreover, without the guidance of a master, Zhang Xiaohua was still scratching his head when it came to something as abstract as controlling the wind. Look, under the night sky, in the forest, a crooked figure almost left the tree branch and tried to control the wind, but in a moment of carelessness, he fell with a plop. Sigh, why can't I stay in the air for a long time? Zhang Xiaohua patted the dirt off his butt as he scratched his head. It was not that he could not stabilize his body, but the technique to stabilize his body was recorded in the ethereal steps. He only wanted to abandon martial arts and only use the immortal Tao. Naturally, he did not want to use it. Standing up from the ground, Zhang Xiaohua looked at the full moon in the sky. It was already late. Casting a spell, he entered the ground and went straight to the alchemy room. In the alchemy room, the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace was already placed on the platform. The earth fire was also burning slightly. No herbs were added into the furnace, only to warm it up. Ever since the great guardian deity Zhou Shuming's visit, there were no more irrelevant visitors to Tianmu Peak. Zhang Xiaohua's farming life finally entered a peaceful state. After cultivating the levitation technique, Zhang Xiaohua once again had the idea of refining pills. And, that's right. Weren't the herbs he obtained from the gambling arena used to refine pills? While alchemy, he could also cultivate. Naturally, he had to take care of both. The 8 trigrams purple gold furnace was an alchemy furnace that could refine high-level pills. The way it was used was different from the alchemy furnace Zhang Xiaohua had used before. Early in the afternoon, Zhang Xiaohua raised the earth fire and slowly warmed up the alchemy furnace. Once the time was right, he would add the herbs into the furnace to refine the pills. This time, Zhang Xiaohua wanted to refine the pill formula that he had obtained long ago, the bone solidifying pill. Although Zhang Xiaohua had never seen the bone solidifying pill before, he had seen the small bone solidifying pill a few times. Those imitations of the incense cult's alchemists could cause the cult's disciples to drool. Presumably, the real bone solidifying pill would be even more precious. Since Zhang Xiaohua wanted to use the pills to practice, this never-before refined pill was suitable. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.